Good morning, guys. Good morning, good evening, good everything. How are you, my friends? How are you? Welcome to our weekly live stream. Today is Friday. It's cold over here, as I was mentioning, and today we're going to continue working on our female Thor, the mighty Thor, Jane Foster, our Marvel Rivals like character. We're going to be looking at some polishing. We're going to start sculpting. Last week, if you remember, let me show you here real quick. Just one more second. There we go. So last week, we managed to complete pretty much the whole blocking of all of the important pieces of the character. We even gave a little bit of like sketches here and there to try to think about how we would be doing this kind of elements. So yeah, now it's time to start polishing. Now it's time to start building up all of the necessary assets that we need for the character so that we can get a nice result, okay? Let's see. Let me answer some questions before we go there. First on Twitch, we got Not Bay Guy. Hey, hi, are you the next dude guy? I am the next dude guy. I'm no longer the next dude. That's a story from the past. I started this new channel. Well, we're almost 2 years from that point. So yeah, my friend, you might know me from, I think I did over 20 tutorials for Next Dude over the years. And yeah, you might recognize my voice maybe. And now we have this channel where we continue to upload more stuff, more 3D content, and where I continue to do what I love the most, which is teaching about the 3D world. So welcome, Not Bay Guy. Welcome here to the Twitch stream. Solid Mango says, just finished the whole Retopology for the X course. I hope it bakes. Question, we use shrink wrap in Blender to get a better result. We do Retopo in Maya or TopoGun. What do we? Okay, in Maya you use a oh, what's the word of that one? It's also like a shrink wrap thing. Oh, I forgot. Oh my god, I forgot what that is. But even like both of them have a similar option where do conform. There you go, Solid Manga. Thank you. Yeah, conform. And yeah, and in TopoGun we have similar options. Yeah, the reason, Anthony, that's a great question. Why TopoGun? Why do we use TopoGun? TopoGun is just a freaking, let me go full screen here. TopoGun is just a freaking amazing thing. I know we talk about topology and how it might go away in the next couple of years, but the point is it's not going away now, and it can be a little bit slow to do retopology in other software. So if you're going to be doing a lot of retopology, if you're going to be optimizing a lot of stuff like what we do here in the studio with VR and AR things, then TopoGun accelerates the process so freaking much. So I really like using it. I know it's an extra software and we are like, oh no, I don't want to pay more, but it's one payment. You get a perpetual license, and believe me, I've talked to guys who have been using TopoGun for the past 15 years, and they only paid for it once, right? When TopoGun was TopoGun version 2. So yeah, it's just an amazing software for retopology. So I strongly recommend if you're doing a lot of retopology in your pipelines, TopoGun is like a must-have. Let's see. So there was a question here by Nishang says, where can I properly use UDIMs and why is it widely used? You can use UDIMs whenever you want, man. Like UDIMs are just a way. Let me draw here real quick to illustrate why UDIMs are important. Yeah, you can do retopo in both. Like sometimes I'll do my retopo in Maya, Anthony, when it's like a very simple asset. But when I need like a little bit more control and things like that, TopoGun is just so much faster. And I can do a quick demo, maybe not today, but I'll see when we can do that to show you. Okay, so here's the difference between like material sets. Let me make the brush a little bit smaller. There we go. So here's the difference between material sets and UDIMs. Okay, so let's imagine we have like an asset. I don't know, I'm just gonna do like a sphere. And this asset is made out of like bands of materials. Like 3 or 4 different materials. Traditionally, what we would do is we would create a UV set for each material or for each area of the object. Let's imagine that this is like a very big object, right? Like that's a little guy right there, and this is like a very huge sphere, and we need to cover a lot of surface area. So we would create like a material texture set 1, material texture set 2, and material texture set 3. And as you guys know, for each of them, we're going to get the diffuse, the normal, and the ambient occlusion roughness metallic. So diffuse, normal, ambient occlusion roughness metallic, diffuse, normal, ambient occlusion roughness metallic. Let's do this. Let's imagine it's 4 maps. It's going to make the example a lot easier. Okay? So this right here are 4 2K maps. Got it? So what you need to do inside of Maya, inside of Unreal, inside of Unity, inside of Blender, is you need to create 4 materials, connect all of the objects or to all of the maps to the material, right? And then assign the material to the asset. And at render time, when you render, the software has to load in all of the textures, it needs to load in 4 materials, and it needs to process the results on the specific object. That's the traditional way on how we work. So if this is a character and you have 1 material for the hammer, 1 material for the armor, 1 material for the body, 1 material for the head and the hands and things like that, well, it's 4 materials that you need to think about. What UDIMs do is they say, hey, if you have a big object and you need a lot of texture sets, right? Don't worry in making 4 different materials. Just make 1 material and you're going to connect all of the textures to that one sort of like master material. And what's going to happen is at render time, the render engine will just check this material and say, okay, the UDIMs from section A will go on section A. The UDIMs from section B will go into section B. Units from section C and section D, right? These are called UDIM spaces, and you normally see them as 1001, 1002, 1003, which in a big grid, right, we normally are on the 1 to 1 UV space. So if you go to the next one, that's the 1 to 2, you go to the next one, that's 1 to 3, and you can have multiple of these ones right here. So the only reason why UDIMs are useful, or one of the only reasons why UDIMs are useful, is because they save ourselves a lot of time with all of this. Because imagine if you have 4 materials or more. Imagine you have 20 materials for an asset, and then they tell you, hey, you need to go to all the materials and lower the saturation of the colors because everything is too intense. You're gonna have to do that 20 times for every single material. With UDIMs, you just go to one single material, you adapt the what's the word, the opacity, you adapt the saturation, the contrast, or whatever, and it's gonna affect all of the materials. Now, a lot of people think that because we're like saving our little bit of time here with the material that this is more efficient. It's not really more efficient because you still have 4 2K materials right here. Okay, so this amount of data is still on your hard drive. If these are like, I don't know, like 500 megabytes, this is still our 500 megabytes that you need to have at runtime or load at any given point to like properly project this texture into the element. That's the main difference. Like that's how like the 2 different options work. Material sets where you have multiple materials for all the different parts, or UDIMs when you can save a little bit of that material sort of like processing thing and combine them all in a single material. Now, if you want to know a little bit more about that, we do have a video here on the YouTube channel about UDIMs. We have multiple videos about UDIMs, so just Google Leal 3D UDIMs and you're gonna find some videos where I explain the process and how to create them, connect them, and all that sort of stuff. Whew, that was a lot of explanation, but hopefully that clears it up a little bit, my friend Nishank. Let's see. I try to make lots for MetaHuman and make animated 40. Yeah, I don't use MetaHuman as much, to be honest, because the kind of stuff that I do, it's not as realistic. But yeah, probably we'll have to do that there at some point. Jax saying Sarn has arrived. Yeah, there we go. Sarn, what's up, my friend? Welcome. Just in time. We were finishing a quick UDIMs explanation right here. UDIMs, again, very, very interesting like things that we can do. Okay, so I'm gonna start polishing stuff, and when you start polishing anything in a character, this is the process or the time or the part of the process that really takes a little bit more time, right? So you definitely need to think how you want to approach this. Some people like to start doing the simple things first. Some people like doing the more complex things first. I'm gonna start with a simple like thing here just to sort of like warm up, and then we're gonna move to something a little bit more interesting. So if we take a look at this glove right here, initially, I just had it from the mesh, right? But I think it's a good idea to just separate it. So let me show you a couple of methods that we can do here. What I'm going to do is I am going to literally turn polyframe on, grab my select lasso tool, and select the place where this thing is, like that. Let's get rid of symmetry so that we can hide the other arm. And then over here, I'm going to be very careful to try to isolate the fingers as well. There we go. Yep, that looks nice. I'm gonna press Ctrl W. When you have something isolated inside of Zbrush and you press Ctrl W, a new polygroup gets created. And this is super handy because once you have multiple polygroups, you can Ctrl Shift and click to just like select it very quickly, and you can do things such as split them. I'm gonna go split and say group split. So that way the polygroup is gonna be split and we're gonna have this piece as a separate mesh. Look at that. Beautiful, right? Now, let's clean it up a little bit. And one of the things that I like to do is clean up the border. This is a very like common question that I get. It's like, when should you change from Dynamesh to subdivision levels, right? And the answer is when you have properly captured the silhouette of the object. In this particular case, this object right here has its silhouette perfectly captured. This is all that we're going to be doing for the glove. So at this point, we can totally jump into a subdivision like a method, and it's going to give us cleaner topology, more control of the forms, more control of the detail, and in general, it's going to work. Could you do polygroups from polyprint? Yes, John. Yes, of course. So, well, yes and no. You do need, let me see, do we have paint here? Yeah, for instance, here, you can see that we have 2 tones, right? We have a little bit of skin tone and then this tone right here. If you go to the polygroups menu, there is an option to do groups from polypaint. And this is what's going to happen. It's going to try to see the difference in contrast between the polypaint, and you're going to get this. What I prefer to do, though, is I prefer to go to the masking options and then go to mask by polypaint or mask by color over here. And you can mask by polypaint and select specific colors and tolerances. And once you have the mask, whatever is masked, you can again press Ctrl W and generate the result that you want in polygroups. So yeah, that's totally doable as well. Let's see. Amandi, what's up, man? Yo! After learning the UDIM workflow, I don't want to go back. Yeah, unfortunately, we cannot use UDIMs everywhere. Unreal Engine allows you to use UDIMs with virtual textures, which is great. We're covering that on the new environment course that I promise is coming. It's coming. I'm working on it very, very hard every day. We got Juan as well here. But yeah, most of the softwares nowadays can work with the UDIMs. There we go. John says, Ave is smart. Be like Ave. Be better than Ave. That's what I want from you guys. I want you to be better than me. I want you to use the information that I'm giving you and do amazing things. Okay, so I'm going to use polish by features here. I'm just going to use a very simple polish. And what you can see here, what polish does is it's going to clean the surface a little bit there on the border of the object. That's going to be very useful because now we can go to geometry, series mesher, and series mesh this thing. And it should give us a very, very clean loop on the border right there. Look at that. That's a perfect loop, at least on the very border of the glove. Ideally, we should get those as well here on the side of the thumb. There we go. Oof, this is amazing. This pretty much has, like, I wouldn't say perfect topology, but it's really, really, really nice. Now, I like to use half and do another series mesh, and maybe another one, just to keep it a little bit more lightweight. Something like this should be more than enough. And from here, we can start sculpting this this bracer that she has, right? So you can see right here. Now I'm gonna go to the body, I'm gonna Dynamesh, and I'm gonna use this brush, that's the brush infinite depth move, so that I can push the arm back into the glove, or into this, or like, it's a glove, right? I think that's the proper name for it. I'm gonna push that in. Same for the fingers, because they might have been cut, so infinite depth move is very, very useful because you make sure to move everything. Like, imagine the camera is just going through the model. That's how you do it. Do you got the same feel I got to Don't Be Enough Good to do the 3D industries? No, not really. I used to get that when I was a student. I definitely felt that way. I had an interesting story. There was one time that we went to St. Patrick's, and it was a crazy night over there in LA. We were bar hopping, and things got a little bit dramatic at the end, like nothing major, but we were wondering, it's like, oh, are we ever gonna make it? Is this thing, it's so difficult, right? So, yeah, I used to doubt myself at that point. Nowadays, you gotta understand, Anthony, that there's a, first of all, as I've mentioned every time, there's a bunch of other things other than the industry, right? And this happens everywhere. Like, just because you know a skill doesn't mean that you have to do what everyone else is telling you to do. You will find your own path. You will find the things that you like the most. You will find your own goals and your own objectives, right? And that's very, very important because we tend to be quite bombarded by this is the definition of success, and I always say that the definition of success should be something personal. You define what success is for you, right? So once you understand that, it's a lot easier to see, oh, I have all of these skills, how can I use these skills? You might be in the industry, you might be working on games and movies and commercials and things like that, or you might be doing something else, and as long as you love what you do and you're happy doing it and you're using the skills that you love to use, then I would call that success. So don't overthink that too much. Just focus on learning the things that you know you need to learn. Focus on the areas that you know you need to improve. And as our motto says, right? Always learning, always improving. There you go. Yeah, there you go. 17F Japan says, exactly. I have skills in marketing, and now I work at Wendy's marketing cheeseburger in 2 bags. No, man, not exactly that, but I understand your meaning. But here's the thing, 17th Japan. I'm gonna use that little joke as a what's the word? As a tangent to explain something very important. There's absolutely no shame in having to work or do something that will later on get you to your goal, okay? So if you need to work at a Wendy's for a couple of years to pay for your university, to pay for college, or to pay for your, I don't know, like debts or whatever, it's fine. You can still do this kind of stuff on your free time. You can still do this kind of stuff on the weekends. There's a lot of things that you can do to keep pushing your dreams. I know it's not the ideal thing, right? I wish the world was an ideal place, but unfortunately, that's the life that we get. That's the world that we get. So it's better to try to adapt and work with what you are given. I think that's a very valuable skill. So let's go here, geometry, and I'm gonna do dynamic subdivision. We can do QMesh as well, but I like using dynamic subdivision because I can use this slider here, which is the thickness slider. I'm gonna really give it a little bit of thickness, not too much, but just enough that the silhouette changes at least slightly, something like that. There we go. I'm actually not gonna give it dynamic subdivision yet. There we go, something like that. So now, as you can see, we get a nice little silhouette here for the hand. I do feel like it's a little bit too thick, so I'm gonna just lower it one bit right there. And I'm gonna hit apply. So what this has done, as you can see, is we've now created this very nice shape right here that is gonna allow us to, well, generate more detail along the way. So if we take a look at the invisible woman here, I'll answer the questions in just a second, because otherwise we're never going to advance. If we take a look here at the invisible woman, you're going to see that there's a little bit of a hard angle in certain areas, and there's a lot of cuts that follow the sort of like shape of the character, right? So we're going to have to do that. We need to add a couple of trims, and we need to add a couple of elements that will give more depth to what we have right here. So in this particular like sleeve that we have for Mighty Thor, I definitely want to grab these two loops right here, and I'm going to use C Modeler for that. I'm going to polygroup them, that one and that one, and then I'm going to push them up. So I'm going to use QMesh here, QMesh polygroup island, and I'm going to push them up to create a little border there on the top. Now you can see that the shape is not perfect. This is where having very little polygroups or very little poly points is very helpful, because I can very, very easily just start modifying some of the points to make sure that the line and that the loop is as straight and as uniform as possible, especially in the width, right? Like we want to make sure that the width of this element is as uniform as possible so that it looks nice. And that adds another little bit of detail. I'm not gonna do the same on this part right here. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if I think we might. But I'm just gonna grab one here, one line. So I'm gonna use polygroup. Let's polygroup that line right there. And then this one, as you can see, it doesn't have a perfect like loop, so I'm gonna have to go into polygroup single poly, and I'm gonna have to polygroup single poly, and I'm gonna have to polygroup this poly right here, so that we get a nice little island. Right? Now here you can see that the topology is not really flowing the way I would like. We got that like crazy point right there. Easiest thing we can do is just go into point and go into, where is it? Stitch. We're gonna go 0.1 and 0.2. There we go. Now I'm gonna go just to move brush, and I'm just gonna move this a little bit. Just change the topology flow there a bit. That way we have a perfect loop there on the element. Same for this one. I kinda wanna delete that edge loop, to be honest. So might be the easiest thing to do. Just go here into edge and say delete, edge loop complete, or edge loop partial. There we go, edge loop partial. Even though we have a triangle right there, I don't care. This is the high poly, and it's more valuable for me to have this like main loop right here. So now we go to QMesh, and we can push this a little bit. Well, QMesh polygroup island, push this a little bit right there, and just click on this one so that it has the exact same width. And there we go. That's going to give me, again, a little bit of change in silhouette and just make the whole thing look more, I wouldn't say professional, right? But a little bit more detailed. I think that's the right word. Let's see. I love Wendy's, never frozen animal. Yeah, I think from burger places, I'm not sure. Carl's Jr.'s is really good. I think you guys call it Hardee's in some parts of the U.S. But that one, the little yellow star, that one's really good as well. Weird question. What do you usually have for breakfast? And start I'm eating 7 eggs and bacon. Damn. I normally have a coffee, and I've been drinking like a protein shake every like morning as a like breakfast. It's the easiest one for me to prepare and just like start my day. Wolf Girl says, I would say if possible, yes. This supposed to have it in it. Yeah, it's always the presentation. Oh, by the way, yeah, we're going to be opening portfolio review very soon. We're going to have portfolio review next week. Okay, guys? I just remember, where's Kavala? I think she's helped a lot of people. She deserves to stand. Yeah, she is here. It's over there. Let me see if you can see it there. That's Kabbalah. And then we have the Oni as well. Right here. And that's the angel from the Zbrush course. And yeah, those are the ones that I have right now on display, pretty much. Vaca Loca, what's up, my friend? What's up? Let's see. In your opinion, how realistic are the make money while learning Blender type videos? To be honest, man, they're not really realistic. They're not like it's possible. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's just. It's tricky. You need to have a very like business savvy approach if you want to be learning something and monetize it somehow at the same time, right? So for instance, I know you know about this, but 3D printing. If you're learning the basics of Blender and you learn how to do basic poly modeling and basic sculpt, and you have a 3D printer or 3D printers, then you can download like files that have attribution enabled or like edit like good copyright so that you can continue to work on them, do some modifications, print them, and then sell them. So at that point, yeah, you're kind of like balancing both things. But it's pretty much impossible for you to be learning 3D and be working like at a AAA studio. That doesn't happen. Again, if you are maybe already a digital designer, you do maybe motion capture or motion design, for like After Effects and commercials and ads, and you start introducing a little bit of the things that you're learning from Blender, yeah, you can make money while learning Blender. But it has to, you need to have that, again, like that like business approach to the whole thing. I have not seen the movie Not Bad Guy. I saw that it was made completely inside of Blender, which is freaking amazing. But I have not seen the movie. I heard that it's a what's the word? There's no dialogue, right? It's all like a story, which I personally like. Let me turn that off because it's getting now too hot. But I wouldn't be able to take my little kid. She wouldn't be able to. What's the word? She wouldn't be able to hold still for, I don't know, like the full movie. So here what I'm doing is I'm just beveling the edges. It's kind of like inserting an edge loop, but just with like a rounder like effect. And this is so that I can smooth this with subdivision levels. And get a nice result. There we go. So of course I can see that there's some points that need a little bit of change. Again, just to keep things a lot straighter. Due to topology. That's a lot better. Especially like this areas right there. Can you see how the border became way too thin? So if we want to keep things a little bit more proportional, we just need to push some of the points. And this is a lot closer to traditional poly modeling, what we're doing here. Let's see. It was good, but I don't think it should have beat the Wild Robot for animation of the year. I also want to watch the Wild Robot. I haven't seen it yet. I'm waiting for it to arrive to like streaming. I know it's on pay-per-view or something, but I'm paying for too many services now, so I don't want to pay for another thing. Hola, señor Aerospace. What's up, man? One question. What do you think about CGMA? I was thinking about getting a CGMA clays. They do seem good. Like the people that are teaching them have a lot of experience as well. So yeah, as I always tell you guys, there's a lot of information out there. Some of it might be pricey. Like I remember when I was starting, before I went to Nomon, I bought a couple of courses from different places, and I had to pay $500, $800, but I knew it was worth it because I saw the instructor, I saw the content, the material. My best advice is look who's teaching it, look at their portfolios, look at the amount of time is always a good sort of like a way to see if it's worth it or not, because sometimes you see courses that are like 1 hour long, 2 hour long. It's like, no dude, you're not going to be able to learn too much with just 2 hours of a quick time lapse and someone narrating what they're doing. It's difficult, right? I prefer courses that are a little bit longer and that you can see the process, maybe not always in real time, right, but you can see the process to really appreciate the steps that they're following to get there. Now this is an important one. As we're going to have belts right there, we do need to add a little bit of something here to indicate that the belt is generating some pressure. Okay, it doesn't have to be uniform. We can vary this thing a little bit right here. But we do need to indicate that there's a little bit of like folds or wrinkles going there. And as I'm seeing on the Marble Rivals like thing right there, it's not perfectly... like it shouldn't be realistic, right? These are stylized folds and the stylized elements. So I'm keeping them very, very, very simple here. It's just an indication of the effect, and it's mainly just to add a little bit of a change in silhouette. Hey, I have one question. How exactly are references supposed to be used? Like gather 5 images and take inspiration from all of them and put it in my work? Oh, that's a great question. Have you seen Intruder X? Have you seen the video that I did? Oh, you guys remember what was the title? I always forget. 5 things to look up for reference. 5 stages. Oh man, it's on the YouTube channel. I'll look it up in just a second. But I did a video where I talk specifically about that, like layers of information, I think it was called, or something like that, where you take a reference, you take an element, and from that element, you extract information. Okay, you extract information, and you use that in your pieces. So yes, you can use reference as a form of inspiration, as you're mentioning there. Like that's perfectly valid, and I do that all the time. Like if you like the colors or if you like the composition, but it's always important to study the piece and ask yourself, why do I like this? Why do I resonate with this particular piece? What is it about this piece or this concept that talks to me in a way, right? Hopefully not real voices, but what's something that this piece is telling me so that I can incorporate that into the final piece. Arturo Carmona dice, hola, gracias a tus cursos he superado mucho mi nivel de esculpido en personajes. Hey, that's great, Arturo. He says he's improved quite a bit on his like character sculpting skills. That's awesome, man. I'm really happy. Which one have you taken? Have you taken the Oni course? That one has been one of our big hits. Do you plan to do retopology and then prepare the gear for renderings? Yes, this one right here is going to go through the full production pipeline. So yes, we're going to be doing everything. Maybe not everything on stream, like not every single step. Like right now, for instance, I'm going to polish a couple of pieces, and I might polish some of the other ones in another stream or off camera. And then maybe I'll do a part of the texturing or the UV process, the retopology in one stream, stuff like that. I know you speak Spanish, but it's kind of weird. Ahorita hablar español. Yeah, I know. Here I'm going to give it another subdivision level. Start polishing this a little bit more. To get a little bit of a sharper planche, right? Because you can see that right now the wrinkles are looking a little bit too soft. So with Trim Dynamic, I'm just like sharpening them up a little bit more. And obviously, I'm trying to find or like think about where it makes sense for this like wrinkles to be. And right now, as you can see, that's the area where the elbow is located. So that's roughly where I want. I still feel like that may be a little bit too much. Like I don't want to overdo it. It's a balance. This is part of the design process of this kind of assets. You need to find like a nice balance of where these things are gonna be like living. Do we UDIMs here? No, with this one we're probably not gonna use UDIMs. I'm gonna check. I'm gonna see if I can get some of the files. There was a guy. If you're here, man, just like reach out or speak up, because there was a guy last stream that said that he had a file, like a Blender file with all of the Marble Rival characters, like assets. So if you're here, let me know, because that would be great to see how many maps they use. I'm guessing they use like 3 maps, maybe 1 for the body, 1 for the face, 1 for the hair. That seems about the stuff. Do you have any tutorials that explain proper hard surface retopo? We go over a little bit of hard surface retopo on the Axe course, Casey, but I don't think we do. As you know, I don't do a lot of hard surface stuff, so I'm not. I don't think we've done that. I've been wanting to do the med kit as what's the word? Oh, there you go, Saditko. On Discord, man. Just send me a DM on Discord. That would be great. Like, I'm not gonna open it right now, but what's the word? But it would be great to study it. Okay. So now that we have this is sort of like the base mesh. I'm going to give it one more subdivision, and I'm going to focus on this sort of like cuts and lines that we have. And if you remember, we mentioned that in the case of Thor, they have like geometric patterns, right? So I'm gonna actually do this on a morph target so that we can like switch. So I'm going to store the morph target, and I think we're going to have like a cut going in this direction. Actually, let's follow the muscles. So this is going to be the bicep right there. And then we have the flexors and the extensors, which are the muscles from the arm. And I'm going to do it a little bit asymmetrical. We could also do this in texturing, by the way, but I like to start seeing how things are going to look from the sculpting process. I'm going to go to stroke, lazy mouse, and increase the lazy radius so they have a little bit more room there. There we go. Let's isolate it for just a second. This is the part that you need to be very, very careful with your stroke. There we go. I normally don't work with dynamic perspective, Arturo. That's a personal preference. If you're going to be using dynamic perspective, I recommend increasing the focal length of the camera. Let's see. Carol Techbox says, "Hi, could you please touch a little topic of beginners in the industry? I would like to know what are the expectations. What is the minimum?" Of course, I need to do a. We're probably gonna do a video about that, but let me give you a perfect example. Right now, we're working on a new project here at the studio, and we are employing some interns or some junior artists from the school where I teach, the university where I teach. They're doing their practices, right? We pay them. Don't worry, it's not completely free. And the expectations that I have from them is they need to know the full workflow. They need to know how to model high polys, sculpt high polys. They need to know how to do UVs. They need to know how to create proper topology, texture with PBR, and then assemble everything in a file, right? In Blender or Maya. The ones that we're working with right now, they use Blender actually. That generation is using Blender. Actually here. Oh, no. I didn't want that one. That one. How do you sign up for that school? It's called Universidad Carolina. It's here in Saltillo. It's where I teach. Give me 1 second. There we go. There we go. So as you can see, I've created this very intricate line that goes across the whole thing. And then I'm going to use that line as a sort of like starting point to create like some more interesting patterns. For instance, here, I'm going to follow that line. Go in and then go around to create like a division. And then on this side where we have like the elbow, it may be a good idea to like loop around, because I kind of like this sort of like four-sided diamond that we're creating here. There we go. What would be a obvious no-no if you would be looking at a candidate to hire? I've shared this before on the UV on the portfolio reviews, and we're probably going to be seeing that next week as well. If the stuff that they show me is very simple stuff, right? Like a cup, a glass, a barrel. It's like, dude, I don't know that I can trust you enough to ask you to do something complex, right? And if I cannot trust you enough to do something complex, then it's going to be very difficult for me to have you on the team, right? Now, I'm not expecting you to be able to do freaking Optimus Prime, right? Like a transformer or something like that. Like that would be unrealistic from my part. But I definitely want to make sure that you understand the principles to do something interesting, right? So for instance, let's say I'm looking for a junior character artist. I know he might not be able to do the full body to perfection, but he should know how to do a female base mesh, right? He should know how to do this bracer that I'm showing you right now. He should know how to do like the belt or something similar, like the hammer. Like if you can do that, that's great, because I can work on the important stuff like the hair and the character's face and all that stuff while you're working on some of the props, and then we bring everything together. So you need to have some certain sense of you need to be competent. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. You need to be competent to really showcase that you know what you're talking about. Okay. So there we go. That's I think I do like this pattern right here. Maybe really like this shape that's forming here. It's gonna like a square. No, I'll keep it like that for now. Yeah, I like it. Now over here on the hand, we definitely need to add something. As you can see here, we might need another division. Let's do that. Let's do here. And these lines that I'm doing, they actually serve a secondary purpose. And that's the thing, that we could eventually use these lines to cut our UVs. That's quite handy, because if we cut the UVs exactly where these lines are located, or as close to where they are, we're going to be able to hide the UV seam. So that's why I added this one right here on at the side of the character. Yeah, check the portfolio reviews, Carol Tech. We've got some amazing artists there, and we've also got like very basic like portfolios. Here's the thing, and this is gonna sound a little bit like horrible for some of you. Hopefully this does not demotivate you too much. But one of the new rules that we've added to the portfolio review, because we were getting a lot of this, is that you at least need to be doing 3D for a year. Like if you haven't done at least 1 year of 3D study, like proper 3D study, right? Then you have absolutely no business trying to get a job or trying to work. Is it possible? Yes, of course it's possible, right? Like you can do like a very basic donut model, like from the Brandler Guru, which is an amazing tutorial, by the way, and sell that to a local bakery or something as a post for Instagram or for Facebook. But that doesn't mean that you're now a 3D artist, right? So it's it does take a little bit of time to develop all of the skills, to study all of the different like things that you need to do. And it's normal that you take at least 1 year to get to that point where you can actually market some of your skills. Once you have that, then yeah, submit to our portfolio review, and I'll be able to help you out a little bit more. Now, you also need to understand, guys, that there's different like levels of portfolios, right? It's not the same to have a portfolio and to apply to a AAA industry or to a AAA studio like, I don't know, again, Naughty Dog or freaking CD Projekt Red and all of this guys, than it is to apply to an indie studio or to do your own indie game. That's one of the things that I'm very, very adamant about in explaining to you guys, that it's like any other thing in life, right? If you go, let's say you want to be a cook, right? A chef. You go to like a it's not a cooking school. What's the name? Like gastronomy or something like that. Like you go to an institute and they teach you all about cooking and stuff like that. Does that mean that you can now cook side by side with Gordon Ramsay? Of course not, right? He's been doing that for years. So you're going to have to really work your way up there and really develop all of the skills so that you could eventually work side by side with Gordon Ramsay. But even if you don't end up working with Gordon Ramsay, that doesn't mean that you can work at really like interesting kitchens or really interesting places. It doesn't mean that you cannot do your own stuff and try your own little like new like a, I don't know, new type of food or new type of cuisine. So it's very, very important that you understand that there's a bunch of different places to do stuff. Hell's Kitchen by Gordon. There you go. Let's see. Donuts are, what if you're at an age above 30 without any experience? Again, it depends on what you want to do, Rohan. So if you're above 30 and this is the first time you're getting into the 3D world, you need to be very honest with yourself and ask yourself, is this, like, can I afford to make a complete career switch and start focusing on 3D, making games and all of these things? Or do I have a family to sustain? Do I have bills to pay? Is it not possible for me at this time? In which case, you can start doing it as a hobby. And the moment the hobby becomes something a little bit bigger, then that's awesome. You can stop doing whatever you're doing. Maybe you're an accountant or an engineer or an attorney or whatever, and you can start focusing more on 3D. But I would say that it can be a little bit financially irresponsible to just like take a leap of faith and hope that life will catch you. Did you guys see this video of this was Logan Paul? I don't follow that guy, but I saw it because it was trending on Reddit. And there was this guy that approached Logan Paul, I don't know where, in an event or something, and he was like, Logan, give me a job. I spent all my money to get here and just ask you to give me a job. I'll do anything that you want. And Logan stops like, what do you mean? Like, why did you do that? It's like, oh, I thought that it was gonna just like play the right way, and I want to work with you. And he's like, no, I don't have anything to offer you right now. And the guy was destroyed because he left a job that was paying him like a good amount of money for that one shot, one dream that he thought was gonna just like be fulfilled. It's like, hey, that's a little bit, that's a little bit crazy. Like, trying to do that, it's not the most like safe thing to do. For some people, it might have worked, because I've seen some influencers do that, where someone approaches them randomly and they give them a shot, and then they become like someone. And well, it's not that they become someone, you're already someone, but the point is they get to that like dream job that they were looking for. But that's not how life works, right? That's not how it really works. So yeah, Rohan, going back to after that little tangent, what I would tell you is, if you're in a point in your life where you can afford financially, emotionally, physically, everything, right? Like, you can afford to stop whatever it is you're doing and focus on maybe making a career out of 3D. Well, you might as well try it, right? Hopefully you always have like an option B or like an exit plan, right? If something doesn't work, you got this other option to fall back onto. But you gotta be, again, smart. You gotta be smart. Don't just take a leap of faith and think that, oh, I'm following my passion and that's good, that's all I need to make it. No, it's important. Like, following your passion and following what you like to do is definitely important, but it's not the only thing that you're gonna need. Okay. Okay. Here, I think, and I see this on the Invisible Woman, they do add. I'm gonna change my alpha to a round alpha. Like a nice little border here. It's looking a little bit too ugly. So I'm going to again go to stroke and increase the lacy radius, so that we have a cleaner line there. This is where a big screen on the tablet really helps, because you can do way cleaner lines. Like, I can really go all the way through the screen. Yeah, Murka, if you have 3D printing stuff on your portfolio, you can also submit. That's fine. There we go. Sorry, I really need to focus on this line, otherwise it's not gonna look nice. Here we go. Nice. And you always gotta evaluate your work from the distance that it's gonna be seen. So in this case, I'm zooming out a little bit, because this is roughly the distance that like people are gonna be like seeing this particular suit. And if I see that something is not matching perfectly, I need to make amends there. Yeah, exactly. That's it. Yeah, Rohan. When you don't have anything to lose, that's a good position. It's not a good position to be in, right? But it's a position where you can you can risk it. You can try and be like, hey, well, if I don't have anything, might as well try it. But here's what I told my dad when I was first starting this. For those of you guys that are new to the channel or you don't know me for a long time here, I was actually studying medicine. I was gonna be a doctor initially. That was my plan. And after 1 year in med school, I was like, nah, this is not really making it for me. I'm not happy. I'm feeling like depressed, and this is not what I really want to do. I was just fulfilling expectations that others had on me because I always was like the geek guy, like the smart guy, the nerd on school. So when I realized that, and that was after I went to therapy, by the way. I went to therapy, and in some of the therapy sessions, the therapist helped me realize that, hey, you're just like fulfilling everyone else's expectations. You might want to take a look on that. And I went back to my parents, and they were like, okay, cool, you don't want to be a doctor? That's fine. We'll support you. What do you want to do? And I was like, I want to do video games. And they were like, okay, that's a crazy change right there, but we'll support you, which I was very fortunate for that. But I did tell them, or maybe I didn't ever tell them, but I always like, hey, if this doesn't work out, like if I try it for a couple of years and then it doesn't work out, I'll switch. I'll do something safe, right? I'll become like an engineer or something, or like a programmer. I probably would be a programmer or something like that. Fortunately, it did work. It did work out. But my father, he confessed this like 2 or 3 years ago. He's like, after this is after I've been doing this for more than 10 years, right? It's been 13 years or 14 years since I've started this, and this was like after 10 years. He was like, hey, I got something to confess. To be honest, I never really thought you would be able to make a living, not because of you, but because of the industry. Like I never thought you would be able to you know, have a house, pay your bills, have a family with just doing like this stuff that you do. Because to me, this is something that's completely like alien to what we normally did, right? In his time. So he's like, I'm really proud that you were able to do it, or that you're able to keep it up. And it's like, hey, that's nice to hear. Yeah, no, definitely, Greg. Like that first year of medicine helped me so much with anatomy. That's why I have a sort of like special preference in doing characters, because I really like anatomy. So every single knowledge helps, and I mentioned this before. Our goal as 3D artists is to replicate the real world in the digital world. So if you work as a, I don't know, like a cook, right? If you work again at a Wendy's or something at some point of your life, all of that information, all of those things can eventually be valuable to whatever it is you're doing. Because if at any point you need to do, for instance, let's say a hamburger ad, you're going to know what kind of stuff people are looking for in their hamburgers. You're going to have that knowledge that no one else but you, because you had that experience, will have. So it's very, very important that you understand that every single thing we do in life influences us and gives us a different perspective on life. And that's so, so valuable, because that's what makes us unique. I also kind of went with the same issue. I was becoming a zoologist, and after 3 years in zoology, I switched to game art, and it's been a year. So far, so good. There you go, man. Yeah, and here's one thing, and I'm going to be brutally honest with this, guys. Brutally honest. Every single decision we make in life has advantages and disadvantages, right? And one thing that makes us very anxious about this decision making is the fact that we would like to have a decision where everything is an advantage. Correct? So that would be like ideal. Like imagine you pick a decision, or you make a decision, and every single consequence of that decision is positive. Well, that's cool. That would be amazing, but that's not how the world works. So you need to understand that when you make a decision, there's going to be some caveats to that decision. When I decided to become a game artist, I knew that, for instance, money, it's good money that you can make. You can definitely make a living, but it's not the same like amount of money that someone who's doing, I don't know, real estate management, or buying freaking hotels and selling them, or you guys have seen these sellers that do like high items, sell like stuff. They sell like airplanes and super expensive watches, and they get huge commissions. Those guys are in that industry maybe because of the money. Maybe they really want to make a lot of money. I'm not saying you cannot make a lot of money with video games or with 3D. There's definitely money to be made. But the point is that you need to understand that you change something for something else, right? You are like, hey, okay, I know I might not be the most well-paid job out there, but I'm doing something that's really fun and really interesting and that I really enjoy. And you need to be very honest with yourself and And yeah, just like know what you're picking. Like you need to be very, very honest and understand that you are picking a specific like path in your life, and that path will bring you certain things, but it might not bring you other types of things. So find out what kinds of things you are looking for. There you go. I think I really like this this like bracer. Looks quite nice, has some nice shapes, some interesting forms. I kind of feel like we need something here. So I'm gonna add another like detail. Yeah, it's coming along nicely. I agree. I'm seeing some junior positions for like 50K USD. Yeah, that's about right, Casey. That's about right in the US. 50, 60K for a junior position is definitely a, I wouldn't say like a common range, but definitely comfortable. And I remember, I think this was a interview that they did to Michael Phelps, right? You guys know him. He's like the best swimmer of all times, and they asked him about his like mindset and stuff like that. And he was like, when I was in high school, I didn't go to like prom, or I didn't go to like parties or hang out with my friends. I was at the swimming pool training and training and training and training more and more and more. So I think it's perfectly fair that he is the best like the GOAT swimmer of all times, because he paid the price, right? He made the effort, he made the sacrifice. So the same thing happens with this. Like if you're like, hey, I want to work at the best studios in the world, are you willing to put in the work that everyone else who wants to do that is doing? Because if you're not, well, then it would be unfair for you to get that opportunity when you didn't put in the work, right? So you need to be very mindful of what you're willing to sacrifice and what you're willing to put in order to get to the specific goal that you have. Anyone got tips for keeping track of shortcut keys and modifiers in a program like Blender? I know the Blender Guru has a specific like a cheat sheet that you can get if you subscribe to his newsletter for Blender. To be honest, memorization is very important, so try to memorize. Oh, Raf Santos, you are gonna make me go into a very interesting tangent with that comment that you just made. He says, in my opinion, one important thing to mention is that in this industry, if you don't live in the USA, things are 100% harder. Especially for us Latins, there aren't that many opportunities. Raf, and don't take this personal. This is not an attack against you or anything. I just want to really confront that like argument that you're making. You're right. There's not a lot of opportunities for the industry here in Latin America. Completely right. But I'm gonna ask you 3 questions, okay? First of all, what like thing in the world says that we should have those opportunities? Is there like a law or something that requires everyone to have equal opportunities? No, right? We are dependent on how society and how things have evolved. So it's not that we don't deserve opportunities, it's the thing that we're not entitled to them. Okay, you need to understand that. So we're not entitled to opportunities. Opportunities are there whether we like them or not. So we're not entitled to opportunities, and we should not have that entitlement in our mindset. Like we should be aware that there's no one out there looking out for you or for me or for anyone else. The opportunities are there, and if you're in the good position at the right time, then you might be lucky, right? Now, second, if there's no opportunities, what's stopping you from creating them? Is there a police officer there that's saying, hey, you cannot do something new or innovative for the industry here? You cannot start something like unique for yourself here in your Latin American country or anywhere in the world, right? Like, there's absolutely no one like at your computer just turning it off every time you're trying to create something. You could create something yourself. I know it's not going to be the next Halo. I know it's not going to be the next League of Legends, right? At first, but it could. Unless you really try and see, hey, what's stopping me from actually contributing or creating those opportunities, finding those opportunities. I know it's not easy, and I'm not saying everyone can do it. I'm just saying that, hey, there's nothing stopping you or anyone else from creating those opportunities. And the third thing, what are you doing? Because we always complain about what the industry is doing. What is the industry doing to destroy games? AI is destroying everything. There's no more opportunities for anyone out there. Okay, fine. But what are you doing? Are you practicing every day? Are you working on improving your skills every day? Are you working on networking and finding people who are doing similar things? Because I can assure you, I don't know what country from Latin America you are, but I can assure you that there's groups of people, very passionate people out there in your country who are trying to create a video game and who you could be a great asset for that small team that's just being born. But you don't know them. They don't know you. So what are you doing to maybe generate those connections? Okay? So again, think about it. Again, I know that the world is unfair, and I know that there's a lot of things that are not under our control, but I do have a very strong belief that we have to do everything that we can to get our odds to be the best they can. Once you do that, whatever happens, well, it's what's supposed to happen, right? There's not anything else that you can do. But if you're leaving things that you could do on the table and you're not doing them because you're scared of how things are, you're scared of AI, you're scared of the opportunities, you're scared of the world, you're just like anxious or whatever, that's on you. That's on you. Not on the industry, not on the world. That's on you. And again, not you particularly. Don't take this personal, but if you want to use these words to motivate and inspire you, go for it, right? This is to everyone who's listening right now. What are you doing with the time, the skills, and the opportunities that you are being given to get the best out of them? Are you making the best out of those opportunities? Because if you're not, well, we got to change that, right? Keep that in mind, guys. I know it's a little bit of a tough talk there, but it's important. It's important to understand that not everything is outside influences. Not everything is like things that are going to be affecting us that way. Let's see. I was working at a supermarket 8 hours a day for 7 days a week, and I still managed to get 2,900 hours of 3D inside. My family supported me to quit my job into the 3D for like 1 to 2 years to become the best I can. So now I'm making 60 hours a week of 3D and loving. Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing. Some people, oh man, this is getting very philosophical. Some people will get like a golden ticket for the lottery. They're going to have like a huge amount of, I'm going to tell you a story. This is real. I had a guy, I'm not going to say his name, but I had a guy who was literally a millionaire when I was at Nomen. Okay, he had a stupid amount of money, and he was taking the exact same program that I was taking, and he skipped classes, he didn't do his homework, he was not learning, he didn't stay all day and all nights there at the school to improve. He was just like, whatever, I'm just paying, I just want to see what this is about, and I'll go for it. It always felt very unfair to me because my family was making a huge sacrifice so that I could be there and study. But then I realized, hey, I mean, that's his reality, that's his life, he's making the choices that he wants. He can do whatever he wants with his money. Does it feel unfair because some of us are like expending a lot of money and effort to be here? Yes, of course it feels unfair. But unfortunately, justice is not going to come from like a divine like proclamation and just like switch things around, right? So what I did is I did whatever I could with the time that I was given and with the opportunity that I was given. Someone will have way better opportunities than you, and they're going to completely waste them. And someone's going to have way worse opportunities than you and do things that you could never imagine. So that's life. It's how you tackle these specific challenges that are in front of you, okay? So there you go. Like we don't, Intruder says, like we don't have... Anthony says, in Latin, I think if you find in this company, it's worth it. But in a country where the money is too heavy, a lot of companies don't want to work with you because you're going to have the demand for a junior. Good on your country, but not the country. Yeah, again, there are a lot of things that will make this complicated, guys. I know. Believe me, I completely understand, and I empathize with you because I had the same stuff. Like I was telling David, recently I had a client reach out to me, and they were like asking for some work, and when I told him how much I would charge, he just ghosted me. It's like, hey, well, I guess that's a little bit too much for them in that case. But the point is, you need to understand that everything is supply and demand, everything is opportunity based, and you're gonna have to find those opportunities for yourself. Exactly, Dadancio says a great comment here on YouTube, says you could, for instance, create a 10 to 15 minute film and show it on events. Yeah, you could do that. You can do a simple mini game. I mean, freaking, what was this this game, Flappy Bird, right? Like, that was a game, and it was huge when it dropped a couple of years ago. So you can definitely do, like, crazy things like that. Oh, well. Sorry, I went a little bit too heavy there, but it's important, guys. It's important that you understand that that there's so many other things again in life, and so things that we need to be mindful of. Oh, I love this one right there. I kind of love this detail right there. I know that's the handle from Mjolnir, but I really like how it breaks up the symmetry. So I think I'm gonna do something like that, like Balatro. That's another great example. Yeah, like Balatro. Okay, so here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna grab this bracer right here, and I'm going to rotate it so that it's facing forward. Because we can always place it back, right? I'm gonna place it here in the center of the grid, and then I'm gonna do a mirror and wealth so that it's perfectly symmetrical. That way we have perfect symmetry, and we can work with perfect symmetry. And then when we are ready, we just place it on the arm. So let's get rid of the lazy step right there. I'm gonna start doing a little bit more sculpting. Let me isolate this. There we go. So I want to go for like a very clean curve right here. And then this right here, I'm going to polish it a little bit. Let's see. Have you ever thought that at some point when you were stuck on your 3D art journey and almost stopped, how did you resolve it? The pandemic. That was the big, like, that was the big moment for me. So when I came back from Los Angeles to my home city, I started a small studio. It was called Critical Hit, and that was the logo, the D20. And I started teaching, and I started like doing client work. We started doing like productions. We had some like very cool projects, and we worked on some very, very nice stuff. And then the pandemic hit. The pandemic hit, and it was difficult. It was very, very difficult to keep things afloat. I had to let go all my friends. I think that was the most like the hardest part there. That to me, we were 6 artists working at that point, 6 of us. And to me, all of them became very close friends. They went to my wedding and everything. Amazing, amazing friends. And when I had to tell them, hey guys, I cannot keep this going anymore. Like, I cannot pay rent. I cannot pay for the equipment. I cannot pay for like anything else because we don't have projects because of the pandemic. I felt like I failed them. Because all of them, curiously enough, were my students at one point. So when I started teaching, they took the classes. I saw talent in them, and I told them, "Hey, you guys have what it takes. Do you guys want to, like, maybe form a studio or something and start like doing this kind of job?" And they were like, "Yeah." So to me, it felt like I failed them because I promised them that they could make a living out of this, and at one point I had to let them go. They understood, thankfully. We're still good friends and everything, but it felt like a huge, huge hit. And at that point, I started doing other stuff. I started doing like video editing, and I was helping my dad with some like translations and things like that. So at one point, it's like, well, this is giving good money. Might as well just stop 3D and just do this for a living, right? But thankfully, at that point, I was still teaching online classes at universities and here on YouTube, other channel. So when I realized that I love teaching, it's like, no, I cannot drop this. Like yeah, money is important, but even if I just make enough to make a living, and sustain myself, that's good enough. And I just want to do what I love. And I kept teaching. kept teaching, and I've been teaching for the past 12 years or something. So it just became my way of life, right? So it's interesting because it is tough, guys. It is tough out there. The world is not easy. But hope is one of those things that you really don't want to lose. Because at that point, that's definitely complicated. Let's see. It's crazy with 3D. I have met a ton of people over the past 4 years, and I can count on one hand how many are still here. Stick with it. Roll with the punches. You can do it, man. Yeah, and I'm going to say something that, again, it's going to sound a little bit controversial as well, but if at any point you're like, hey, this is too much, I can't handle it anymore, I just want to have a normal job that I can go work, you know, like a 4 to 7, or how do they say, 9 to 5, right? I think that's the common quote, 9 to 5, and just go back home and play games and maybe do 3D, but I want to do this hobby. That's perfectly valid as well. Like, no one's torturing you to, like, or enslaving you to be kept doing 3D. So if at any point you feel like, this is it, I don't want to do 3D for a living, I just want to do it for fun, it's perfectly valid. And it's not that you failed or anything. We all have things that we like. We all have things that we don't like. So it's perfectly valid if at any point you feel that way. Because again, I think we put too much pressure on ourselves, and we think that we should always do what we say we were gonna do. But we change as humans. Our lives change. There's a very famous psychology thing that says that I think it's like every 2 years, you're a completely different person from who you were. So as a completely different person, you might have completely different objectives in life. Lamella says, bro, good word, bro. Yeah, it's... I tend to have a very sort of like utilitarian way of saying things. So if you're doing something and you're not happy, you might want to change that. Even if it's 3D and you thought 3D was going to make you happy forever, if at one point it's no longer making you happy, of course, always valued, because there's tough times, as Casey's saying there. Sometimes you got to roll with the punches. Like, you got to build a little bit of a thick skin and figure out, okay, yeah, this is going to pass. It's going to be different in a couple of months. Like in crunch time, when you're working on a project and you get to crunch time, those times you want to give up. You're like, fuck this, I'm out. But to be honest, it's not like, you know that's gonna pass. It's gonna pass, and you're gonna be on a nicer situation. And at that point, yeah, just roll with it. Okay, so I'm gonna pass this piece up here. So this is hard surface like sculpting, or the beginning of hard surface sculpting, and I'm focusing on just like the general shapes. I think we're gonna use TopoGun today, because I want to show you how I would rebuild this thing so that we can get like a very clean shape. Let's do a little bit of like an overlap here. So this piece right here is gonna overlap on top of the other piece. Looks very elvish. Let's see. Since I discovered 3D, I can't imagine wanting to do anything else that bring ideas and dreams to life. A lot of what I've wanted to do in life made so much sense. Now it's just trying to get good enough to make it happen. There you go. Yeah. So she says, I had the opposite experience. I got picked up as a character artist as the gaming industry ballooned during the pandemic, and now the industry is self-correcting and I'm getting laid off. Yeah. Yeah, that's an unfortunate situation, my friend. I really hope you can get a new job soon, because it sucks. It definitely sucks. And here's the thing, guys. I've been I'm gonna say a business owner for the past 8 years. Like, I've not been an employee except for the teaching positions that I have. But most of the stuff that I do is as a business owner. And even for us as business owners, it is difficult. I know we like to have this sort of war of, oh, business owners suck and they just want to get the maximum profit. Believe me. I mean, some of them do, right? But there's a lot of us that really care about our talent and all of the people that help make these things work. And whenever we have to make tough decisions, we do think about that. It's like, hey, this sucks. I hate this, but there's a point where it's not profitable for anyone. Lumela says, I wish I can 3D. Maya Indie is just expensive for a freelancer. Do Blender, man. Yeah, do Blender. Have a Blender course if you want to check it out. Blender is a great way to get your head, to get started like on the 3D world. Okay. I'm gonna use the mini standard here to polish this a little bit more. So this is gonna be like an armor plate. It's gonna be. The thing is, I kind of want to have like separate pieces. I want this thing to go underneath this thing right here. Let's see. So from here, there we go. Kind of like that. So this piece right here is going to be connected to that piece underneath. They're the same piece. Does that make sense? And then this thing's gonna be like a golden piece. It's gonna be on top of it. Again, this is an artistic liberty that I'm taking, but I really feel that it's gonna work. And it's still like we're still sort of like following the shapes or the design principles from the original comic. So I think we're fine. Okay. Then here, I really want to push this one again a little bit more on the silhouette right there. Maybe get into a sharper point. Let's see. You're gonna... What's that? You're not gonna believe how piracy caught my other computer and cancel. Yeah, no, it's... I don't recommend piracy at all, guys. Especially for softwares, you can get like really... Did I tell you about that time I got like a Trojan? Like an actual Trojan horse on my computer? They were about to get into my like bank accounts. It was bad. And it was because I fell into a phishing scam. So I clicked things that I shouldn't have clicked, and I literally installed the Trojan horse into my computer. So I was on my bed like at 12 a.m., like almost 1 a.m. one day, and I got a notification. It's like, oh, your Google password got changed. It's like, what? No, I didn't change that. And I ran to the computer to stop like everything happening. I had to do a full cleanup at that point. It was horrible. Like I got like severely compromised. So no, don't do that stuff. Shido, yeah, man, the leg is completely healed. I got a fitness goal this year. I wanna go into a race. I'm gonna go with my brother and my brother-in-law at the end of the year. So I'm gonna start training for that as soon as things get a little bit warmer here. So yeah. Are you going to sculpt to polish your sculpted model high mesh before you project the materials of the low? Yeah, of course. That's called bakes. We're gonna be doing that. Yeah, no. I mean, there's some sites that are a little bit cleaner piracy related. Again, I don't commend or recommend any of those. Most softwares out there, they're gonna have like a student version or something like that. So, no, it's not a marathon. It's like a half Ironman. So I'm gonna be doing we're gonna be splitting it into three. Like it's swimming, it's bicycle, and then it's running. I'm gonna do the swimming part. Someone's gonna do the bicycle part, and someone's gonna be doing the running part. So I'm gonna be swimming open sea. I think it's like 2 kilometers. Not that much, but it's still gonna be a good challenge, I think. And my brother, he ran or almost ran the full Ironman last year, so he's gonna try to run the full thing. Yeah, that one, triathlon group. That's what I'm gonna be doing. I'm gonna be doing the swimming part, because even though I'm fat, I'm good at swimming. Okay, so we got this shape right here. And from here, we can definitely go into TopoGun to do a little bit of retopology and prepare the pieces. Then I'm going to take this into probably Maya or Blender to clean them up and have really, really, really clean like a bracer pieces, okay? So let me go full screen here just real quick. So I need to activate my license here actually, because I was using it on my laptop yesterday. There we go. Okay, let me bring this in. You're good at syncing. Many artists change brushes in Zbrush without going into options. Can you tell how that works? Yes, Virtuous. Very, very simple. Let me show you. So when you're inside of Zbrush, I have two ways to change brushes very quickly. First, if you know the shortcut, you can just press B, and then, for instance, the clay buildup is C, and then V. So if you do that fast enough, it looks like you're just like clicking. But I actually have this interface. You can find this interface on the Discord channel on the official links, and you can use this ones right here to just click on the brush and just switch to it. So I use that one quite a bit. I did print the Doom Mask Solid Mango, but the print failed and it was wasting too much like filament, so I stopped printing it. I need to go back and change a couple of things on the modeling. Our community should collab and make an indie game. That's a great idea, but unfortunately, I think we're missing a lot of people who do programming. We need a couple of programmers to be able to do that. We have a lot of very talented 3D artists, but programming is definitely one area that we're missing. So I'm going to export this one. It's not like very high poly, to be honest, so we can totally work with this. I'm just gonna call this bracer high, and now we're gonna go into TopoGun, file, load reference mesh, and we're gonna bring in the bracer. There we go. So we'll just press the plus sign and we start drawing. So the great thing about TopoGun is that you actually don't need to worry about creating the faces. The faces get created automatically. So it's very easy. You just click on all of the different points where you need a face. And by doing that, it automatically creates the face. Then we got things like the bridge tool to just like bridge them together. As you can see here with this particular piece, I can very easily trace the curvature that I want. So that's, I think, and the guys at TopoGun, they mentioned that this is sort of like their philosophy for this particular software. They want you to worry about the flow of topology, not the topology tools themselves. For instance, there, just there we go. So look at that, like that huge poly strip, it might have taken me like a minute to do inside of Maya, and here it took me what, 10 seconds? 14 seconds, something like that. So it's a lot easier to just, again, focus on the general flow of things without having to worry about the actual topology. It's just very, very good. Now, there's other tools that are really good. For instance, a lot of people like this like draw tool, where you literally draw the topology. For instance, here, and then I do this. And then I say preview. And create geometry, and it's gonna try to create it. The more precise you are, the nicer this looks. That's one way to do it. To be honest, I like just using my click brushes here. And again, just following or focusing on the topology that I know that we need. This is what we cover on the topology course, by the way. Let's see. Yeah, if you're thinking about learning about topology, this software is just beautiful, beautiful. Now here, as you can see, I'm just focusing on creating these very base meshes or basic meshes, because we're gonna go into Maya and we're gonna play with them and extrude them to generate the actual bracer. So I just need like the basis of the whole thing. That's all I need. And I'm keeping it low poly, of course. You always want to work with the least amount of like polygons that you can, so that it's easier to control. And especially if you're using like a subdivision approach, this also keeps it very, very clean. See, I'm always scared about doing retopology on stream because it's not super exciting. I like it. To me, it's like solving a puzzle every time. But I know it can be a little bit weird here. Let's say BCM, BCB, BMV. Yeah, those are some of the main brushes there that they'll. Yeah, it's funny fact. I bought TopoGun before the course, and then I was asking to myself, why TopoGun? So I take the course too. Yeah, no, you're not gonna regret it, man. It's such a powerful software. Now here, as you can see, we have a couple of triangles. Perfectly fine, to be honest. We don't really... I don't care too much. I'd rather have like a clean surface there. I don't think they're going to affect us too heavily. There we go. Now this one's going to be the tricky one. This piece right here. Because we have a flow going in this direction. I'm actually going to have to do it as two pieces and then merge them together inside of Maya. I'm going to go this way. And then I'm going to stop. And I need to understand that this line right here is going to continue under this piece right here into this section. Right? There we go. There we go. Same stuff here. There we go. Here I'm going to use a little trick there. It's called the 2 to 1 or 1 to 2. So I create 2 polygons out of 1 with that little arrow shape. Again, topology on objects that are not going to form is not as... Like, you don't have to be as precise. Of course, the more precise you can be, the better. But you don't have to be as precise because it's not gonna deform, right? We're gonna fix some of this later, but that's it. Like this generated all of the, or this generates all of the mesh that I need to create these pieces inside of Maya to give them depth and form. I think I need one more point right there. There's an option here. There's a little brush that you can use to relax stuff. So like smooth. So the proportions are a little bit better. You can do UVs. You can do UVs like Maya on TopoGun. I'm not sure I understand the question. No, you cannot do UVs. You cannot do UVs. You can do bakes. So once you have your UVs, you bring them back here and you could do the bakes. But to be honest, even though they're like nice bakes, Marmoset and Substance have better bakes. Yeah, you can only do half and then you just mirror. I could mirror here, but I prefer to mirror inside of Maya. So now I'm just going to say File, Export Mesh. Let's call this Bracer Low. And now we go to Maya. Let me just make sure that it got exported. Yeah, it's exported. So now that it's exported, I don't even need to save. I can just quit and load them in back if I need to. Let's go to Maya. Maya is gonna crash, of course, the first time we open it. Freaking bug. I hate that bug. It's one of the things that I really, really strongly hate about Maya. The software with the monkey logo, that's Marmoset. It's Marmoset Toolback. That's the one that we use for rendering, texturing, and baking. Let me see if I have something here that I can show you. Yeah, I have the bell. We talked about this one. If you didn't see the video, was it this week? The Marmoset video? I think it was, right? So this week we did a video on the bell. So this is the low poly of the bell that we sculpted a couple of weeks ago. That's Marmoset. Can I ask you how you break down an idea for an original character? You mean design my own character, Akif? Or grab a character from a concept and then how would I break the pieces into 3D like modeling? Because those are two completely different questions. What about you guys in YouTube? You got quiet. Oh wait, or did I? Oh, I forgot to read the message actually. My bad. Says, hello sir, recently I completed your rigging course from Udemy. Currently working on my short reel. So what kind of rigs should I add to it? Usually some like the rigs that are not human. Royal Killer. Those rigs are very, very important because there's a lot of like human like rig tools that you can use nowadays. So if you can show you can rig things like the robotic arm, like a bow and arrow, like the ones that we saw, right? Like complex things like those, that's usually a good idea. Yeah, use it, Casey. Use it. If you have TopoGun, try it out. It's very fast. There we go. So we got the pieces there. Look at that. Very clean. Love them. You always render in Marmoset? It depends, the Delva. For stills, Marmoset is really good, but I use Arnold and Blender as well. So as a beginner, how much? It depends. How much of a beginner are you, Becker Draw? I know we've seen some of your stuff. Like if you already know like the main stuff about 3D, you know, bakes and all that stuff, bakes, texturing, retopo, and all those things, then you could definitely benefit from Marmoset. I usually recommend Marmoset for those who are, for instance, about to graduate, because it's a really good software to prepare your portfolio and to really polish some of your stuff. Okay, so I'm going to separate this, mesh separate, so that we can work on them individually. And I'm going to start with this one right here. The first thing I'm going to do is, of course, I'm going to mirror to the other side. There we go. And we're going to generate the proper depth for this thing. Now, if you remember from the original blocking that we did right here, this is like the outer shell of the piece, of the armor. We can later give it more thickness if we need to, but I'm going to extrude this, and I'm going to extrude in right around there. I'm going to say mesh display and reverse, of course. So that's the initial piece. Now I need to grab these two pieces right here, and I'm going to combine them. And we're going to start bridging some of these elements and cleaning them up, because right now it looks very dirty. So that needs to be bridged. For instance, here I might simplify a couple of these points into triangles, so that we have 1, 2, 3, and we might need to grab this too as well. And there we go. I know it looks very ugly, and I know you guys are like, oh my god, that's not flowing properly. We'll fix it. We'll fix it. Don't worry. There you go. So for instance here, what we can do to fix this is all of these points, let's just combine them into a single one. There we go. Now it's a square. Now everything is a square. We can play a little bit with this ones. Whenever you have a bunch of these triangles right here, again, there's always ways to fix the flow of topology. It's just a matter of trying to find, for instance, that right there, that's a square. It could be just like a simple square, and it's just this big point right here that looks like it's a triangle, but it's actually not. And then we can add another edge right there and see how everything starts looking a lot cleaner. Now here, for instance, we could even collapse this ones, and that way we completely get rid of any triangles. It definitely looks a little bit too stressed, this part, but since it's going to be underneath the whole thing, we can have it. So there we go. Hey, Oriana, thanks for the follow. Welcome. I realized I have not modeled anything in Maya for a month now. Yeah, that happens. It happens when you start working on something, especially when you focus on one software, and then you keep going. We still got a ways to go, Rastex. We're still gonna be here for a little while. Today I'm inspired, so let's mirror this again to the negative side. There we go. And as you can see, this is what we get here. So before I do the extrusion, I do want to play a little bit with the points here. Probably gonna use soft selection and just play a little bit with the forms. We can always modify this inside of Zbrush as well, but I like to give myself an idea of how things are gonna look before. There we go. For instance, here, this line, can push it back a little bit, and then this points, push it out a little bit. So there's a little bit of overlap, but not too much, right? And once we have that, Control E, we extrude back. And then I'm gonna scale forward and backwards to create like a little bit of a sharper shape right there. Now, of course, over here, for instance, these faces, with soft selection, we do need to push them up a little bit more, maybe forward, so they fill in that little gap right there. This is traditional box modeling or poly modeling, which is a skill that I strongly recommend everyone develops at one point, because it gives you so much control over the shapes. Of course, we're gonna reverse the surface, and there we go. Now here on the inside, I'm always worried about these pieces, because eventually with Retopology, it might be a little bit tricky. So I'm not sure exactly how I'm gonna solve it yet, but it might have to do with a little bit more thickness. So there's a little bit of overlap on the bottom part. Like, I don't want things to be like very, very close to each other right there. I always want to have, you know, a little bit of something. Even this edge, maybe. Just bring it in a little bit. There we go. And then that point right there. Or this whole like edge. I need to lower it. Push it in. And keep it simple. Again, here we're not smoothing. We're not pressing number 3 or anything. I just want to make sure that this looks as nice as possible. The pivot snapping in Maya always... No, the pivot snapping in Maya is the best pivot snapping in the world, man. Like, I hate the Blender snapping. Blender has a lot of very cool things. Snapping is not one of them. So the way you snap is you press the letter D, and then with middle mouse, you can move the pivot point. So if you press D and V on your keyboard, you snap to a point. If you press D and X, you snap to the grid. If you press D and Z, or C as in I don't know, crate, you snap to a curve. So you can snap to a bunch of different places, and it's very easy with just shortcuts. Rather than having to click on the little magnet and stuff, it's a lot easier here. Okay, so now this one right here. What's the name of the add-on, Ditko? See, that's the thing I don't love about Blender, Ditko. That I know there's always a great add-on for a specific thing that you might want to do. so that's the thing, right? I would love if they either included it as a default add-on at one point, or if they just told you, hey, if you're having issues with this, look for this add-on. Because unless I knew there was an add-on, it's difficult to imagine how to look for it, right? That's one of my little pet peeves about Blender. That yes, I know there's always going to be like an add-on that can do the thing that we're needing at one point, which is cool. That's a great feature as well. It can be a little bit annoying to have to know all of those add-ons. There you go. That's the next part, and then finally this one. We mirror. When you mirror, make sure that you don't get any extra vertex on the edge. Sometimes happens. It makes a scroll wheel to snap faster. Yeah, that sounds good. I'll check it out. Go. There we go. So as you can see now, we have the full bracer, right? The full shell of the bracer. It's got enough thickness and everything, so I'm happy with the whole thing. Now we need to start like cleaning this up so that it looks a little bit closer to what we have on the concept. Because on the concept, as you can see here, let me show you, the bracer is always like a very like smooth metal bracer, right? Like very, very smooth. So we're gonna do something like that. You talked about working on an environment video a few streams ago. Are you still planning to do that soon? Yeah, no, it's the environment course, my friend, that I'm working on, and I promise I'm still working. This week was a good progress on that course. I recorded like 4 hours. Like 4 hours of content takes me roughly 3 times that of actual time. So if I record, for instance, the courses that you see on the site, if they're 20 hours, it actually took me like 60 hours to do the full thing. If it's a 10-hour course, it actually took me like 30 hours. So no, we don't have a trailer yet. Yeah, and everyone wants to. Yeah, I know. That's why I feel the pressure, man. I really feel the pressure. No, the interesting thing, Solid Mango, is I already have the next 2 courses like thought out on my head, and I really want to get and start doing them. So I'm tempted to just sometimes I'm tempted to just say I'm gonna stop the environment course. Let me finish one of the other ones because I know they're gonna be a little bit faster. They're like 10-hour courses, and then go back to the environment course. But I've promised the environment course so much that I definitely need to finish it. So today I'll finish the stream. I'll get good launch, and I'll come back and record a little bit more about the environment. Okay, so now let's just start adding a couple of like babbles and support edges and things like that. So for instance, all of this part right here, that one, babble right there. And then I think based on the shape language of Marvel Rivals, I think I do want to sharpen the center point right there to get like a nice little effect. Now, I'm not worried about those like lumpy effects because we're going to be giving this a little bit of treatment inside of Zbrush. So I'm not too worried about those. That's it. I just want to create like the big mass or the big shape where we're going to be sculpting. And look at that. That looks very, very nice, right? Let's do the same thing for this one. So we're going to go along all of the edges. This corner's right here. And probably the center line as well. And we get that very nice shape. So getting this clean shapes inside of Zbrush, it's possible. But I'm way faster doing it this way. Because I know we get those comments like, oh, you could do that hard surface inside of Zbrush. I know. I totally know. I'm completely aware of it. But the problem is that I'm way, way faster in Maya than I am in Zbrush. So that's why I prefer to do it here. Let's Dynamesh. There we go. Beautiful. Look at that. Now, I do want to have a little bit of a change here. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to add an edge loop here. And I'm going to push this edge loop in. And then scale it a little bit as well. So this has more of a curve-like shape. Can you see that? Those like angles, they use these angles in Blizzard and in League of Legends all the time. Like those like sharp angles. Very, very good for a snappy and clean silhouette. Again, that's a design choice. Will it be a natural? It's a graveyard. I already shared the story behind it. It's called the Lady of the Moor. It's like a medieval sort of like legend, and I've shared it. It's gonna be a graveyard. It's gonna be like a main building, a couple of like modular assets, the terrain, trees, everything. And I show you how to do all that stuff. That's the problem with the course, that it requires you to know. Like, there's so many assets that we're going to be doing that you really need to know a little bit about everything, sculpting, modeling, retopology, things like that. And then we sort of like bring it together and create a full asset. Like, that's one of the courses, and I'm warning you guys. This is what the environment course is one of the courses that's definitely going to take you way more time than the actual course is. Like, the course is going to be, I don't know, maybe 20, 30 hours. It's going to take you like 100 hours to do, because there's a lot of things that I show, like, hey, I just built this asset. Now I'm going to do the exact same thing that I did for this asset with 20 other assets that you're not going to see on screen, but it's the same process. And now once you have that full sort of like kit assembled, now we're going to move to the next part. So yeah, we're doing a lot of Unreal Engine. Yep, that's a good piece, Solid Mango. Definitely a good piece. Let's see, Topi has a specific question. Says, when making something like tattered fabric or frayed jeans, would you make those details in Zbrush and bake it on maps, or do it straight in Paint using opacity? Again, it depends on the project. If you want to go really, really, really like the extra mile, like what they do in Last of Us and God of War, you're probably going to be sculpting those and then baking that transparency. If you're doing a game that doesn't require that much work, or the characters are not as elaborate, then you can totally do it in texturing. Yeah, I hope it's going to be really good, guys. I really hope. It's been a challenge, which is always good, but it's also been a very fun, like, a process so far. As soon as I have more news or a teaser or something, I'll let you guys know, okay? I'm just... the best thing you can do right now is just be a little bit patient. Let's add a support edge right here. And I think I'm also going to add one right here. There we go. Oh, that looks lovely. Lovely, lovely, lovely. Actually, I kind of want to get rid of this one right here in the center. I like how this looks a lot smoother. There we go. Lots of clothes in Horizon game has holes in it. Isn't it easier and more efficient to bake that in the map? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. Oh, that's a great question, Aaron. You guys want to hear the explanation for that? It's a little bit of a technical explanation, so bear with me. But here's how it works. If you have a polygon, right? Imagine this is the skirt of a character. And that's the map of the character. And the actual like polygons that you're going to be seeing are this ones right here. Right? Imagine that's like a tattered skirt with like holes and everything. So this is like a big plane. And then you have the actual geometry that you're going to see with the map. And all of this is not going to be visible, right? This is the transparency map of the part. When you render this in an engine, it needs to calculate every single pixel here. When this is on screen, it calculates every single pixel and says, okay, this pixel should be transparent. This pixel should be opaque. And that takes time. We call this, these are things, something called draw calls. So there's a lot of draw calls going on in this area because it needs to calculate all of the pixels that are transparent and all of the pixels that are not transparent. So one thing that you can do is, first of all, remove all of those. So if this is going to be a plane, sometimes it's easier to create a topology that follows very, very closely to the area of the object. This is what we do, for instance, with trees and leaves, so that you don't have as much of this like extra real estate of surfaces that you need to calculate, and you only calculate this inside part right here. And at that point, you could ask yourself, well, is it worth it to have transparency, or might I just like create like a very sort of like triangulated mesh that has very simple triangles, right, to cover that specific part? And sometimes it's cheaper to have this than to have this. It depends on the asset, it depends on the project, it depends on the engine, but there's two like different like options that you can have. Like literally model in the claw, like the holes and all of the elements, or keep the transparency very, very close to the object. Yeah, no, Murka, that's a great question. And here's the like the the secret about the industry. We've always used triangles. If you go back to the early models from like World of Warcraft and how they were handling like their triangle stuff, there's always been triangles involved in the game or in the creation of game assets. The thing is, I don't know when people started freaking out about triangles and thinking that they're like the bane of any modeler's existence, when in reality they're just tools as everything else. If you know where and when to use triangles, you can use triangles at any point. If you don't know where to use triangles and you start getting horrible like topology, for instance, for what's the word for human deformation or animation, that's when we get into issues. So a lot of people played it safe and say, oh no, never use triangles because they're wrong. But you can actually have a pure quad geometry that's completely like messed up and it's not going to work. So just because you use quads doesn't mean that your topology is going to be perfect. It's completely false in that specific case. So now let me explain this, guys. Oh, let me export this, guys, so that we can continue working on it. I'm gonna export this as an FBX. Actually, no, not an FBX. Let's combine everything. I'm gonna combine everything, and now I'm gonna export. OBJ is fine. And the reason why I'm gonna do this is because I'm gonna use polygroups inside of Zbrush to separate each specific part. So I want you to see the difference, guys. Here, let me append a new sphere. Because that right there was the... That right there was the horrible bracer that we had. And now we're gonna see how the clean one looks. Let me get rid of... What the hell is going on here? There we go. So this right here was our ugly bracer, and look at how our clean bracer looks compared to it. Right? Quite the difference. Still the same shape, still the same form, still the same sort of like spirit that we want to have, but way more interesting. Yes, we cover a lot of that in the course, Murka. A lot of that. So there we go. Now let's just start tweaking this one a little bit. What I want to do is just want to make sure that this like flows nicely. So I'm going to use move topological to start moving things here. So I want to have clean lines, straight lines, interesting surfaces. Looking clean, yeah, right? Nos Owl, what's up, man? Oh, sorry. I have a question. I tried to figure out with Sarn. It's about references. How do you know what you need to search and how you analyze the references? Okay, let's answer that one. Give me 1 second. So, it's a great question. Hey, where's my... Oh, there we go. Okay, as for references, or how to analyze references. And I did this video a couple of, it was earlier this year, I think. Oh no, it was last year, right? So there's this video that says this one. The 5 layers. It's called the 5 layers. If you look at Leal 3D, the 5 layers, you're going to find this one. And here I explain how to properly analyze a reference. Like, what are the things that you need to look for in the reference? That one, very, very important. Now, how do you actually look for reference? Well, let's say we're doing Mighty Thor, and I'm looking for leather belts. If I just look for leather belt, I'm going to get a lot of information about people trying to sell leather belts. That doesn't work. So I need to look for very specific things. Leather belt, medieval, reference. You can even add the word reference on your element, and you're going to start seeing how belts were made. Some of them are going to be from cosplay, right? Some of them might be from actual recovered like pieces, but you're going to see a lot of these references. And you always want to look for references that present the item in the most sort of like realistic way. This is not a realistic way to present the item. It's just like an extracted version of the belt. This is not a realistic way to present the item. It's just someone trying to sell you this specific belt. This is a realistic interpretation or sort of like depiction of how this might have looked on a Viking, right? Back in medieval times. So you want to look for these references. And once you have this reference, once you find something that looks really, really close to what you're looking for, you start asking yourself questions like, what is interesting about this? Well, first of all, the loops. All of the loops, the pattern on the element, the difference between materials, the difference on the color. You're going to have some light colors here and then some dark colors over here. So all of those things are the things that you need to study the reference, understand the reference, and if you find those things, you are going to start learning about the objects, okay? So for instance, right now we're doing bracers, and you can see this right here, how they overlap, how each element is overlapping each other element. Well, that kind of stuff, I can sort of like find a way to incorporate it on my own character. Does that make sense, Anthony? Hopefully that answers the question. Casey has a question over here as well. Says, quick question. I made a foreground in Action Interactive on my A pose character. I want to post it and have the hair follow the new pose. Is there a way I can do this without converting to Geo? It should be. I mean, if you use Groom Interactive, it should follow the position of the mesh. So if it's properly like attached to the mesh, when you pose your character, you need to pose it traditionally with like bones, joints, and like deformation. You're not gonna bring it into Zbrush, then move it, and then bring it back. You need to pose it inside of Maya. But if you move the geometry, the force should follow it, Casey. If you did the process properly, it should follow it. Okay, so now we're gonna move this thing. And we're going to position it where it should be before we start adding a little bit of detail. There we go. Oh, that looks very good. I like it. I really like how this looks. As someone mentioned, it's looking clean. There we go. Now, here's where I need to start asking questions. And this has to do with, again, like production pipelines and things like that. Is this thing just going to be floating there? Or do I want this thing to be a little bit more like embedded to the arm, right? It could be both. Especially in games, there's a lot of like floating armor and bendy armor. Like that's very, very common. So don't sweat too much about that. Like that, like empty space right there. Because at the end of the day, we're going to bake everything as separate pieces. But what we can do here is I can just, again, for instance, my move infinite and try to, or just move brush. Just try to find something that gets a little bit closer to the mesh. Right? This is especially important to hide the underside of the element. It might destroy the symmetry a little bit, which I don't love, to be honest. Actually, no, I don't love that because it's looking very, very nice. But like, I need to do that for 40 images. No. You don't need to do for all of the images. You can do for a couple of them, Anthony, and then use that information again to get a good approximation of what you're looking for. That's looking nice right there. Again, this is where we can use a little bit of suspension of disbelief. And as long as it makes sense, like people look at the element and they're like, yeah, I can imagine how this thing is gonna be like floating there. Then we're gonna be fine. Depending on the project, you really wanna like make this as realistic as possible. For this one, I think I think we can do a little bit of suspension of disbelief with the floating like bit right there. What do you guys think? Because I really like how that like silhouette looks now. Kind of looks like a carapace. Looks interesting. There we go. Let's push this in a little bit there. We're gonna do the belts here in just a second. Actually, I need to. I'm gonna look at some reference as well because I want to see how they did Thor, because he probably has something similar. Again, you gotta judge it by how it's gonna look in the game. So if it's gonna be this distance roughly that we're gonna be seeing, especially from the back, right? Like it's very weird or very rare they're gonna be seeing like this underside of the arm. Maybe in some movements though, so that's why I'm questioning whether or not this process or this particular approach is gonna work. But I think it will. Let's see. Question: I have sculpted a character in Retopology, but haven't made the clots and armor yet. Should I make it in the same way you do right now? It's one way to do it. There's multiple ways to do it, but if you want to do it, yeah, this could give you a good result. Okay. Let me turn on the poly paint. Okay, we need to re-poly paint this. So let's grab the skin tone. Let's go to poly paint and we're gonna fill color there. Oh, the other one, fill color. There we go. Oh, we lost the. Did we lose the? Oh. We lost the poly paint on this one? Oh, that's a shame. It's a real shame because we had a very nice poly paint going on the body. So on the body, what we did was we did a full poly paint like that, fill color, and then I'm going to just quickly just like paint the arms. There we go. And the abdomen there. Cool. Okay, so this is looking nice. Now we need to do these belts right here. Do we have any more questions so far? Let's see. No, I don't think we have. Hey, you guys got quiet. We can definitely start now tweaking this. I'm going to use my trim dynamic. And remember the little bumps that we had? I'm going to give this a couple more subdivisions. I'm going to give it a little bit of a hammered look to this like armor piece. Just a little bit of texture, so it's not perfectly smooth. And it looks like it has gone to battle, right? And of course, I'm doing this asymmetrical. It's going to help sell the effect. We try to want to get rid of... Oh, that's like a pinch going in. We can smooth that out a little bit. Igor, what's up, man? I've been working for a week using Pomodoro method that you mentioned, and genuinely, I became more efficient with all the things that I do while sculpting. You guys want me to show you a new method that I found that has helped me quite a bit this week? It's been a life-changing thing. Like that's one of the reasons why I've been able to record so much more this this past week. So, have you guys had a? Let me go full screen because this one's I think it's gonna be a short. I found a method that's a little bit of a variation from the Pomodoro technique, and it has helped me with this anxiety and this procrastination issue that I usually have. And I think a lot of us suffer from it. So what I've done is now I've given myself permission. This only works, of course, if you're doing as a freelance stuff. Like it's not something you can do in the studio. But I've given myself permission to have one Pomodoro timer where I just do nothing. Or I play a game or something. So when I'm feeling like I don't want to do anything, I don't want to work, I actually give myself the task to have fun. It's super weird, and I'm not sure why it has worked with me so well. But I literally say, hey, I'm gonna just like right now I don't want to record, or I don't want to do the short, or I don't want to do something that I need to do. And rather than spending the next 2 or 3 hours again like doom scrolling or procrastinating or anything like that, I just say, okay, cool. You don't want to work right now? Fine. Play a game. or read a book or watch some YouTube videos or do whatever you want, but give yourself a specific time to do that. And I put the timer, the Pomodoro timer, and something funny happens. I start seeing it, and it's like, I really want the Pomodoro timer to be over because now I do feel like working. Like, once I give myself the task to, again, have fun, it sort of like switches something on my brain, and now I give myself the time to, like, I look forward to the time that I can go back to work. But I force myself, like, hey, you wanted to play? You wanted to waste your time? Okay, fine, waste it, but really waste it. And then you start feeling a little bit guilty, and it's like, oh, okay, yeah, I think I really should get back to work. So if that works for you guys, you might want to try it. Just, if you feel like you're procrastinating too much, give yourself, it's like, hey, fine, I'm going to do 25 minutes of just, like, watching TikTok, but timer, like, play a timer there, and that's going to allow you to really see how you're, quote-unquote, wasting your time and get yourself back to work. Yeah, it's like a 5D chess move with my brain, exactly. It's like a 5D chess move, but again, it helped me quite a bit this week, so it might help you. It might help you as well. Because then I realized I was having another sort of like a mental thing that I hated, and that's when I like found out this method. I would finish my day, right? Like my work day. It was like 8 p.m., 9 p.m. And I would go back to my house. And I wanted to play a game to just like, you know, decompress or like zone out. And I couldn't. I couldn't play a game. Even though I have like a freaking monster computer to play any game I want and I can stream it and whatever. I was not feeling comfortable doing that. I felt guilty about playing a game because I thought, oh, you could be working. So I was like, no, that's unfair as well. That's unfair to us. So you should feel like you accomplished enough through the day that when you go back at night to your home and you're going to play, you don't feel guilty just like resting, right? So, yeah, that method, again, might work for you, my friends, if you want to try it out. I feel guilty playing games thinking that the time wasted in the game. Yeah, exactly, Casey. And I was feeling the exact same way. And that's when I realized, like, this is not healthy. This is definitely and absolutely not healthy. So I need to find a way to beat this. And the way I found was the one that I'm sharing. It's like I gave myself time. It's like, hey, this is your playtime. So use it wisely. Enjoy it. There's nothing else you're going to be doing or you should be doing rather than play right now. And that way, again, it's like a 5D move, so someone says, like tricking my brain into thinking that playing at that particular time was where it's fine, right? Now, this is, of course, after you've worked. If you haven't worked, well, you gotta do something. You can't just play all day. Unless you're like a streamer and you're making a lot of money out of that. I've thought about that, by the way. I've thought about, like, oh, it would be very cool to just play all day. And then I really thought about it. It's like, no, that also sounds a little bit like a job. Like, playing just as a job also sounds not too much fun. So I know we all think it's like, oh, I would love to be like I don't know, this like very big famous streamers and just make a lot of money from playing. I'm not sure, actually. I'm not sure. It sounds fun for a while, and then you're like, is it really fun? How to make skin folds? Please tell me. I struggle with it. We've done that. We've done that, man. Where is it? Here. So if you ever have a question, guys, odds are that I already made a video about that. So if you go to my channel, you look for skin, you're gonna find this one: skin texturing, how to sculpt wrinkles, Zbrush tutorial. What else? There's this hyper. No, that one we done. This one, layers, preserve detail. So there's a lot of stuff or a lot of like videos where we've done skin-like things. Like on this zoological stuff, the orangutan, we sculpted a lot of skin. So yeah, just look at it. Someone else earlier was asking for UDIMs, right? So if you look for UDIM, there we go. We got several like elements about UDIMs, several things to talk about UDIMs. So there's a chance there's already a video out there where I touch upon that topic. Make sure to do a little bit of research on the channel. And if there's a topic that I haven't covered, let me know, either on Discord or here, and we can talk about that one as well. Same could be said about 3D. Yeah, I guess so. I guess so, Arenas. I'm a 3ds Max user in Zbrush. One thing that I have doubts is about scale in Zbrush. The option unify is always confused to me. Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Again, if you look for scale, I did this one. Fix your scales with easy. Component scale for clean surface. I talk about that on the 3D printing course as well. On this one, on the anatomy course, we talk about scale quite a bit. But yeah, Zbrush doesn't have a unified scale. It usually works closer to millimeters, but it just uses this like agnostic like scales where it's just like 1 unit, 2 units, and when you get it into the final software, it sort of like converts to the software's to whatever the software is supposed to be using. Let me do other groups here. I wanna just we have other groups. Oh, this one. Other groups. There we go. So I want to fix this right there. There's a little bit of a dip. Now what I'm gonna do here, you guys are gonna like this, because this is already again looking quite nice, but it's gonna be nicer once we start doing a little bit of material definition. This one I'm actually, oh, this is gonna be a little bit crazy, but I'm gonna push this out so that we create a little bit more negative space or shapes right there. And then of course we need to fix these shapes right here so they sort of like blend together a little bit nicer. Oh, I probably want to do that. Oh man, I don't want to go all the way back. Now we're gonna have to, so I want to have that sort of like poking out. Nah, let's keep the carapace looking stuff. What I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna isolate this and I'm gonna give it a little bit of a golden color. And now that's also gonna help sell the whole sort of like process there. LePulk says, hola Eve, ¿quieres saber cómo haces para suavizar un objeto grande sin que se distorsione horrible y pierda su forma? Tengo que hacerlo poco a poco con la brocha, no hay una opción para eso. Disculpa que te escriba en español, me costó un poco escribir en inglés. What kind of object, man? Like a big character or something? I usually do it with the brush. You can do like a very big brush, for instance, and then smooth, but lower the intensity of the smooth. You press shift and then lower the intensity so that you have a little bit more control over it. But if not, yeah, you might want to need to do it like little by little. How do we improve in proportion while making character? Compare. You need to compare a lot. You need to look at the reference, look at your character, and measure stuff. Measure how things are flowing and stuff, and that's going to give you a good idea. Now, this one definitely needs a little bit of detail, but I'm not going to add detail to these big plates right there. I'm going to keep them clean. I'm going to add some, like, what's the word? I'm going to add a little bit of detail to the golden piece. Again, I think I'm going to have to go back all the way to, like, the symmetry. Because even if I try local symmetry, I don't think it's going to work. No, we've rotated too much. Because maybe we can do that in texturing. In texturing, we're going to add some, like, patterns here, like the belts, right? And that's going to definitely help, like, sell that effect. Pablo VFX, what's up, man? Why are you angry? Okay, let's go to this one. I do want to give it a little bit of a polypaint pass just to give get an idea of how it's going to look. So let's fill the color. And then what we're going to do here, again, to give a little bit of variation, is we're going to paint certain, like, parts, like this trim right here, with a slightly different tone, right? We see this in the Invisible Woman's concept piece, where there's a little bit of a change between tones. This is something that of course is gonna have to happen later on in the texturing process, but it's a good way to generate an interesting change in the silhouette. Now, interestingly enough, we did like an infinite like pattern here, so I might need to add another like division probably here, to be honest. Otherwise the color is just gonna like reach back to that part. And there you go. We can see things are looking nice. That's a good question, Mango. I'm not entirely sure. I'm not entirely sure where I'm going to be texturing this. It's definitely, because the textures definitely have a little bit of like hand-painted stuff. So I'm probably going to have to take it into 3D Code. We're going to start in Substance, most probably. And then we're going to jump into 3D Code. Do Do you have tips for doing retopo in Maya? I'm really struggling with hard surface props like the bracer you're doing right now. Yeah, man. Again, you can check the channel. There's a video I did for the Plague Doctor's mask like 2 years ago. That one covers a process that you can use inside of Maya for retopology. But it's the same principles. And again, if you haven't checked the retopology course, I cover those principles on that specific course to explain the kind of stuff that we're looking for. Yeah, so that looks nice. How are we doing on time? Oh, we're good on time. Trying to think if there's anything else I want to add to this bracer, but I don't think so. Like, I think this section right now is to the point where I want it to be. Now I'm just gonna start pushing the belt so they're a little bit closer to the silhouette of the arm. And now we need to do the hand, actually. I think the hands are going to be an important piece. So let's talk about the hands. So as you can see here in the character, we actually have multiple parts, right? Like we have these fingers right here. We have this hand over here. Ideally, what you want to do is you want to give yourself as little work as possible, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to delete these fingers right here. Oh, let's delete those like weird fingers. Oh my god, without symmetry. Let's delete hidden. And I'm also going to split the pants from the character. So the belt is a perfect place to split stuff. Even this arm, to be honest, I'm gonna delete it for now. And then what we can do... Oh no. It crashed. Oh boy. And you guys know what's the worst thing about the crash? The worst thing about the crash is that I didn't save. I forgot to save, guys. I completely forgot to save. Let's hope let's hope QuickSave saved us. Let's really hope QuickSave saved us. Yep, no, I did not Control S. I lost. That's fine. I'm so used to this that I don't get angry anymore. It's just like, hey, it crashed. Awesome. Now there should be a couple of saves. Yeah, there we go. We have one right there. Shouldn't be that far back, to be honest. Because anytime you pause for like a minute, it saves. So, not too worried. Okay, let's see. How much do we lose? Not too much. There we go. Yeah, just the belts. We just lost the belts. That's fine. We actually got back the poly paint from the body. So, yeah. We lost a little bit of the detailing on the armor. Let's save. Before anything bad happens, let's of course save. There we go. And then we go. How big is my drive? Huh, you don't want to know, man. That's a weird question, dude. Nah, I'm just kidding. I got a 2 terabyte. No, I got a multiple drives. Give me 1 second. Here, let me show you. So I got, see, my main drive, the C drive, is a very small drive. It's a 250 gigabytes. This is where I have my operating system. And the reason I have it this way is because if I want to do a complete format, I just format that one, right? And I can move other information a lot easier. Then I have a specific small drive. This is just for Unreal, another SSD. I got another SSD for the software. So all of my software is installed in this one. And then I got a 4 terabytes where I save all of the recordings, all of the projects, all of the data, the information. That's a normal HDD drive. I have another M2 one. This one's for my games. This is where I install my games so I can play. As you can see, it's running low. And then I just bought a new one. This is a new 8 terabyte where I'm having some, I'm saving some backups. So most of the stuff from the projects is going to go here into this local disk eventually. And then I have this one is an, what is this? I don't remember if it's an SSD or if it's a, or if I think it's an SSD as well, a 2 terabyte SSD. This is where I have more games as well. And then this is a portable one. So yeah, I got a bunch. I got a bunch of storage space. Nah. Crashes in every software are very, very common. Is the voice in your head in English or in Spanish? If you don't mind me asking, it's in Spanish. It's in Spanish. It does get to a point where if I'm planning something that I'm gonna be doing in English, I do think in English. But eventually, most of the time, it's just what's the word? Most of the time, it's in Spanish. No, the thing is, Casey, I download games and then I never played them. Like, for instance, I got Baldur's Gate installed there. It's like 250 gigabytes or something. And I haven't gone past, like, the first act, unfortunately. So yeah, I just forget to delete them. Let's do just a poly paint. Poly group. Okay, what? Poly paint. Fill color. There we go. So what I was doing, or what I was explaining, is that we can actually divide this body into multiple parts before Zbrush decided to crash on me. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to select lasso the whole pants like that, and I'm going to say subtool and then split hidden, and then I'm going to go to this one and I'm going to do the same thing with one arm. So I'm going to grab this whole arm right around there, I would say. And then I'm going to get rid of symmetry, hide this arm right there. I'm going to say split hidden again. So now I'm going to have this arm as a separate piece. As you can see, it covers enough of the area of the character, right? And it's a lot easier to work on a simple area. We can subdivide it more times. We can subdivide it independently of other areas. So it's a nice way to work. Now we go to this other arm right here. We actually want to delete the arm. And we're going to delete this part of the torso. And this part of the hips. Yeah, delete hidden. And now this is what we're gonna be left with. We can go back to this arm right here, and we can mirror this, mirror and weld. So now we're gonna have the exact same arm on both sides. We can have symmetry. Eventually, of course, we're gonna delete all of this like underlying like geometry that we have on the left arm. But if we want to modify the anatomy or anything, it's a good idea to have both arms be the exact same place, right? How much longer is the stream? We still got like an hour left, man. Murka, if you want to hang around, we still got like an hour left. What's an alternative to Substance Painter? We got Marmoset, I would say, is the second choice, or my second choice would be to Substance Painter. And then third option would be 3D Code. In my experience, those are like the best options out there. So now this one's we Dynamesh real quick. And I'm going to Series Mesh, actually. Series Mesh immediately. And the reason why I'm going to Series Mesh is because I want to be able to sculpt the fingers. And with Series Mesh, we should get cleaner topology for the fingers. It's definitely low, so I'm going to increase the poly count target there, the Series Mesh, so that we get a couple more loops. This is not the final Series Mesh. Eventually, we're going to have to do proper Series Meshing, but there we go. As you can see, that's a little bit better. They're definitely getting too thin, right? So I'm going to use inflate to inflate them a little bit. Female forms are usually a lot slender. Not all the characters, but traditionally speaking, I would say. So we want to work on that. And now I'm going to Control D a couple times. And what we want to do here is we really want to like work a little bit more on the definition of the fingers. You can see that the fingers, they have a very obvious way to, they have a very specific way to be like created. Oh, there we go. So, the hell? Oh, there we go. So a very common mistake when people are doing fingers is that they just do like sausages fingers. Like they just like look at a cylinder and it just looks like horrible. When in reality, fingers have a specific gesture to them. So the first phalange of the finger, which is the first bone, creates an angle with the next phalange, and that phalange creates another angle at the end with a round tip. This is more of the shape. So this angle, like straight on the top and then squishy on the bottom, that's usually the way that we want like fingers to be built. So that's what we want to start like creating here. Now we don't want to over exaggerate that stuff, right? Like we don't want to push it to a like place where it looks horrible. But we definitely do want to play a little bit with that sort of like gesture. The index finger is too long. No, it looks fine. And actually in the game, in games, usually you exaggerate again things a little bit. if you stick with realistic proportions, things can start looking a little bit weird. We definitely need to subdivide this one more time. And maybe it's a little bit too long. You're right. Especially this tip, right? So I'm going to use my move brush. I'm going to give it a little more roundness. Again, usually in games, guys, we tend to make things a little bit thicker and a little bit bigger than they are. Because if we make them very realistic, they look very small, pixel-wise. And that's also difficult to read. That's why games such as Street Fighter, for instance, they use such exaggerated proportions. Because action is happening all the time. So if it's difficult to read what's going on because you're going for very realistic proportions, it doesn't make for a great gaming experience. That's why I think stylized stuff is such a cool thing. I personally prefer games that are a little bit more stylized than realistic. Like, I don't care about graphics too much. I care more about like the artistic presentation. What is the total polygon? Right now we are at 6.3 million points for this high poly. In my estimation, this is probably gonna get all the way to like 50 million points by the end of the whole process. Which is quite normal, to be honest. How many softwares do you use in your pipeline? Do you do 2D? I use a lot of softwares, man. A lot of softwares. But here's the thing. Back in the day, back when I was starting as a student, I always felt very proud whenever I learned a new software because I was like, oh, I now know something new and I can show that in my curriculum. And yeah, you can do that. But to be honest, it's not about the softwares. Later on, you learn it's not about the softwares. Like, you can leave me with just like stock Blender, for instance, and I could do like really cool things. You can leave me with stock Maya and I can do very cool things. You can leave me with just Zbrush and I can do very cool things because it's not the software. It's the knowledge, and the software just helps you get the knowledge. It's a tool, okay? It's a tool at the end of the day. So yes, it's a helpful tool. It's a tool that I don't regret having, but you should focus on the artistic skills that you're learning rather than in the specific tool that you are like understanding or using. But if you want a list, I can start listing them. It's Maya, Zbrush, Blender, Unreal Engine, Marmoset, Substance Painter, Substance Sampler, TopoGun, Marvelous Designer. Which other have I used recently? I've used Reality Capture, for instance, for Unreal. A little bit of Gaia. What else? A Zbrush for iPad, a Nomad Sculpt. Again, you start getting, you start learning so many softwares: Photoshop, After Effects, Premiere Pro, DaVinci Resolve. You start learning softwares, and what happens is the skills just get transformed from one to another. So if one day someone's like, hey, you can never use Zbrush again, and now you're going to have to do everything in Nomad Sculpt. Okay, I mean, I wouldn't love that decision because I really like Zbrush, but all of the stuff that I know about form, proportions, and things like that will be transferred to now use them inside of Nomad Sculpt. So that's why you should raise some UV. Yeah, that's another one. That's why you should focus on learning skills or learning principles, artistic principles. And you transfer those artistic principles into the softwares, and then you can adapt those skills or those principles into any software. Because the principles are the same all the time. All the time. Do I use any 2D softwares? Yes, as I mentioned, it's I used 3D Code. That's another one that I missed. Krita, it's a fun one. Photoshop for painting. I don't do a lot of 2D, to be honest. I do. I know how to do 3D painted textures, or hand painted textures rather, which are very similar to 2D. If you want to do hand painted textures, and you learn how to do 2D stuff, it's very, very similar. Have you able to use... Yeah, no, this is... I live from this, man. See, that's a question. I actually want to know this answer from you guys because I feel like my perspective can be a little bit skewed sometimes. What would you consider? What would you consider to be a professional 3D artist? Like, to you, what is the definition of a professional 3D artist? To me, the definition. Well, tell me your definition first, and then I'll tell you my definition of a professional 3D artist. Have you watched Arcane? I watched the first season. I haven't watched the second one. I really want to do it. I think I'm going to do it today. Javan says, a professional 3D artist, you get paid to do it. Okay? Is that it? Is that the only thing? Like, as long as you get money out of doing 3D, you are already a professional artist? How would you guys classify a professional 3D artist? Someone who has been doing it for 10K hours, even if he hasn't been paid. Like, you do 10,000 hours, Casey. Let's say, let's put that as an example. You do 10,000 hours, and you're not getting paid. Are you a professional 3D artist? Someone who has experience in the field and work at companies many people wish to work at. Okay, only that? Working at a company makes you a professional 3D artist? Even if you did a bucket, a barrel, a trash can for a game? Does that classify you now as a professional 3D artist? Someone who is capable to explain complex topics to a 5-year-old. I like that one. Exactly, Yvonne. That's the thing, right? That's a great nuance right there on the definition. It's not the same thing to be a professional or a pro at something that be a professional as a profession. Because you could argue that anyone who's, again, making a living, working in the studio, doesn't matter what they're doing, they're a professional because that's their profession. But then being a professional within the field, being a pro within the field, requires other stuff, such as maybe where you have worked, the kind of skills that you do, your portfolio, right? Like, it's a lot of different things. Yeah. To me, a professional is someone that gets to pay to do it. It's someone that understands the skills and the information. So he's not just repeating or reusing specific steps. He knows what he's doing. He has a fundamental understanding of what he's doing. And he gets paid to do it. In my opinion, a professional artist is the one who knows how to control workflow works and know its craft. Exactly. I agree there, Fede. I agree there. Be able to create the project in a specific time. Also being able to make, for example, characters that have great silhouettes and matches the right colors. Yeah, and that comes from like the design principles, right? So yeah, now going back to your question, Matisse, I do live out of my art. I do consider myself to be a professional artist because not only do I do this part or this project, which is teaching and sharing the things about the 3D world, I also use my 3D knowledge to create products and to create experiences that we then use as a business, right? That's the business side of things. So the teaching side of things is one half of my artistic career, and the producing side of things is another half of my artistic career. I do freelance, I do, again, projects for my own. Sometimes I create my own projects and I try to sell them. Sometimes we get required to do a specific project, so it's a little bit of everything. But yeah, I do make a living out of this, and it is possible to make a living out of this. I know, as you're saying, that there's some people that say, hey, I don't want to work a whole month for 500 euros. That's not a lot. I agree. That's not a lot. That's why you need to prepare yourself, right? Understand the workflows, understand how things work in the industry, so that you can get into a position where you can offer your skills and your expertise for a livable wage, right? Or for prices that are affordable. Because I know maybe you're saying, hey, 500 euros is not too much for me right now here in Europe. And I agree, that will be like very, very, very little. But 500 euros, for instance, for someone here in Mexico, that's a lot. Like, a lot of money. There's some people here in Mexico that make, like, the minimum wage right now is like, I think like 350 USD per month or 400 USD per month. Is very little. So there might be an artist here in Mexico to be like, hey, I'll be willing to work for that. And that's unfortunately part of the like industry situation, right? Nice, Javon. That's awesome. Make sure to show that one on the stream, or not on the stream, on the Discord once you finish as well. Is it worth working on the studio? I feel it might be draining. It can be draining. It can definitely be draining. Some people really enjoy that type of work. I'm going to give you a perfect example, right? For me as a freelance, I have a disadvantage, let's say, or one thing that's a negative about being a freelance, and that's the fact that there's a lot of uncertainty, right? I know there's also uncertainty in working in a studio, but when you get hired for a studio, let's say they hire you for a 6-month project, you at least know that you're going to have a job for 6 months. So you can leave 6 months with a peace of mind knowing that you're going to be working on that project nicely, right? For me, that doesn't happen that way. Like, I'm not sure if next month I'm going to have freelance work or not. I know I'm going to have other kind of work, and that's why I always try to, what's the word? It's not gamble, but I always try to invest in like multiple revenues so that I have something safe every time. But that's one of the disadvantages of being like your own boss, right? So every single, that's what we were talking about this earlier in the stream. Every single decision that you make, whether you want to work for a studio, whether you want to go solo, whether you want to work in an indie team, like every decision you make has advantages and disadvantages. And you need to be comfortable understanding that those advantages and disadvantages are not interchangeable, right? Like you cannot have it your way all the time. So you're going to have to make peace with the fact that certain things will have certain like pros and certain cons. That's just the reality of life. What is the average cost per month in USD for a 1-bedroom apartment down there in Mexico? You could probably get 1-bedroom apartment. That's a good question. No, it is. Here's the thing. Like people who are working for that little, for 400 USD per month, they're not living by themselves in a 1-bedroom apartment. You're usually sharing a rent for like a house, right? So for instance, a house, let's say a 3-bedroom house with kitchen and 2 bathrooms and stuff like that, you could probably get a rent for like $600, let's say $700 for a month, right? And if you split that between multiple roommates, it becomes a little bit more affordable. Yeah, situations. No, I don't think there's any place in the world where the economic situation is like perfectly fine right now. So it's not ideal. That's not what a 3D artist is making that here, by the way. Like if you're just graduated as a 3D artist and you're getting like a junior position, you should be able to get something that's a little bit more comfortable. So I would say, because I've seen them unfortunately, but I would say like $700 a month, $800 a month as a first job for a 3D artist here in Mexico. It's common. But at that point, again, based on the expenses and stuff like that, it becomes, I wouldn't say comfortable, but it becomes doable for a couple of years while you build up your career as well. It's not easy to quote prices as freelance. You need to see the clients reflecting why they choose freelancers. Price reduction. Yeah, but also at the same time, and I always advise this to anyone who's pursuing the freelance stuff. If you really have nothing else, like if you have absolutely no other option that you can work at, and you might need to lower your prices if you need to eat, right? If you need to pay your bills, and you're going to have to do something that is under your budget. But ideally, you don't want to lower your budget. If you truly believe that what you charge is the right amount, charge that. That's your skill, that's your time, that's your expertise, charge that. People are going to complain, they're going to be like, oh, that's too expensive, I can afford it. Well, I'm sorry. You're going to have to look for someone who's willing to do that. There might be situations where you need to take the cut and accept that, hey, nothing else is coming along. Maybe I do need to lower my prices or adjust my prices or something. But as long as you can hold, it's better to hold. Because people who value you and your work, they will pay for what you're offering. And most people who do like financial stuff, they always recommend that, like never lower your prices, because then it becomes like a race to the bottom and no one benefits from that. Part of that, and part of my job actually as a little entrepreneur here, is to train the clients or to teach the clients, hey, this thing that you want, it costs money, man. It costs money to develop. It costs all of this stuff. And one way that I always show them this is a trick that I use for negotiation when they say like, oh, it's too expensive. Why is it so expensive? I just ask them, how much do you make per month? And usually the people who are looking for this kind of project, they make a good buck. They make a good amount of money. And at those positions, like, well, imagine I need to pay you for 3 or 4 months of production. How much would that cost me? They will be like, oh, it will cost me this much. Well, that's a very similar situation. Oh yeah, Jose. That's absolutely like that's I think that the proper definition is like microeconomics. You're totally right. Like it's not the same. Like if you have a lot of ArcVis clients and you've already built a library of assets that you've built along the years, then of course you can reduce costs because you don't have to produce them. But I'm asking, or I'm talking more about like commissions or things that are very specific to a client where you need to do everything or you need to work from scratch for everything. In those cases, then unfortunately the price is gonna go up. That's the reality of things. Yeah, that's the part that I'm mentioning, Jose. Like if you explain to them, hey, the same amount of time and effort that you put in your work, it's the same amount of time and effort that I'm gonna put in my work, and the same amount of money that you're being paid, that's what we're asking for us to be paid. It puts it into perspective. A lot of people don't understand that, unfortunately, but it might help put it into perspective. Like when you explain, I got, like, for instance, in our case, we got like 3 artists working on this right now and they need to get paid, right? They need to eat. Well, it costs this much to keep someone working for us. So wouldn't it be better to sculpt one finger and then the copy? Yeah, I'm probably going to be doing that. I started with Series Mesh in Clean Subdiv just so that I had like a better canvas to work on. Because the original Dynamesh was very, very wrong. Usually for this kind of stuff, by the way, guys, like hands, faces, all of this, the studios already have base meshes for them. So you're not going to have to do them from scratch every time. But in this particular case, yeah, for instance, that finger right there, I think it looks very nice. So let's redo the hand real quick. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to clone. Probably going to finish when we're going to be finishing the stream with this trick right here. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to delete hidden. Well, first of all, we need to delete subdivision levels. So delete lower and then delete hidden. And then I'm going to delete all of these fingers right here. I'm going to Dynamesh with a higher resolution, really high resolution, so that we keep most of the detail. There we go. And then I'm going to duplicate. And then on this duplicate version, I'm going to hide everything. Except for that finger, of course. I'm gonna delete that. Bring the hand back. Grab the finger. Oh my god. Grab the finger. Why is it not? Oh, I know why. Where's the pivot point? There we go. Let's move the finger to the side. This one's going to be the middle finger, so it's going to be a little bit bigger. I'm going to have it there in position. I usually like to give a little bit of gesture to my fingers. So for instance, this one right here. I'm going to... This is called the Michelangelo hand, by the way. I'm going to bend the finger a little bit. Thanks for the follow, Month Hero, and welcome. Welcome if it's the first time you're visiting the stream. Probably a little bit bigger. I always look at my hands too, just to make this kind of stuff. There we go. Now duplicate this one. This one's going to be a little bit smaller. So the ring finger is usually the same size as the... what's the word? As the index finger. Roughly the same size. And then this one again, I'm going to rotate it a little bit. Create a little bit nicer gesture there. It's also easier to sculpt some of the shapes of the finger when you're doing this. Let me other groups. I'm gonna split here, group split, okay, so that we can grab this one. Definitely want to modify it a little bit here. Hellos, what's up, man? What is your opinion on Warhammer, and do you think it's possible to work for them? Warhammer? For the company that makes the figures? I'm not sure, to be honest. I mean, everything is possible, right? But I'm not sure how easy it is to work for them. Daniel da Costa, what's up, man? Thank you. Welcome to the chat. Long time seeing you, my friend. Yeah. Maimon says, hey Eve, I noticed your courses have different prices, and I was just wondering what is the pricing. Is it based on the effort involved? It's the effort, it's the time, like how long the course is, and how valuable the skills I think are gonna be for you as well. So some courses might have, let's call them beginner level or introduction level content, and those I usually price them a little bit lower because I know it's going to be just like the first time someone's going to get into the 3D world, and I want to make it accessible for everyone. But once I know that, hey, this is going to be really, really important for your artistic career, it might be priced a little bit higher. But I always try to price them as fair as possible and as accessible as possible for you guys. How long do you think a project in Zbrush should take? It depends. It depends. This project right here, it should be, I think, like about 40 hours, 60 hours maybe, like full character, like a full week, maybe 2 weeks of work. Right now, in this stream, this is the like 6th hour that we've been working on it, so we still have long ways to go. The pinky finger is always a little bit lower. When will be the next stream? We stream every Friday, my friend. So every Friday we have our weekly stream. So the next stream is going to be next Friday. Camera's going to say merge down, okay, merge down, okay, and Dynamesh, of course. And we clean up. Now, as the fingers start like bending a little bit, the knuckles are going to show a little bit more. It's very common. So we should see a little bit of the knuckles, so like pushing in this area. Imagine being a designer at Games Workshop in the 80s without computers. Everything hand sculpt. Oh yes, they used to sculpt with wax, like a very malleable wax, and they would carve into the stuff. There's people that still do that, by the way. There's people that still do that. Like wax sculpting, like people who do jewelry. Wax sculpting is still a very prominent technique. Now with 3D printing, you can actually 3D print in a castable material. It's called. It's a little bit of expensive resin, but jewelers. Oh, that's a very difficult word. Jewelers. I have to practice that one. People who do jewelry can benefit quite a bit from that one. No, Javan, I don't know how to use 3D Max. Sometimes I need to install it to just like when I'm working on a project and they're sending me 3ds files, I'll install it to just export from it into FBX and then work from it. But no, I don't use 3D Max. I know it has a very nice like simulation system, like Phoenix, I think it's called, right? Is it Phoenix? Phoenix effects or something like that, where they do like fire and magic and elements like that. I'm curious about that system, but I know I don't use 3D Max. What tablet do I use? I use a Huion Canvas 22. It's the Huion Canvas 22. They sent it to me last November, if I'm not mistaken. Before that, I was using the Huion Canvas 13 HD, the 2.5 HD one. Now I use that one with my laptop. It's a big tablet. It's 22 inches, so it's like a freaking screen. But it's very, very comfortable, to be honest. Oh, that's a plugin from Chaos. Oh, okay. There we go. So now that hand looks very, very nice. Like way nicer than what we had, right? So we go back to this one. And we need to do a little change right here. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to isolate this one. Delete the hands. Now I'm going to do this, of course, on both sides. There we go. So delete hidden. Oh, we need to geometry, Dynamesh, or sorry, delete lower, delete hidden, and then we say subtool, insert this hand right here. Let's do mirror on the wealth. There we go. Now this one merge down. Okay, there we go. And we Dynamesh with a really high subdivision. And there we go. So that's it, guys. Look at that. Let's work a little bit on the nails For the nails, I recommend doing them as separate pieces, but we can sculpt the nail bed. I'll show you how I do nails in just a second. Well, let's just use the basic nail bed right there. I think we're gonna go for long nails. Not super long nails. Not like creepy old lady long nails. But definitely pretty long nails. You need tutorial make texture. I've done that already, man. Again, just look on the channel. I have seen that. Month here says, I saw you on Instagram and you have very good tips. Toco sil volvere algún día o el bec. What's that? Is that Portuguese? Oh, thanks for the sub, man. Thank you, thank you. No, that's not Spanish. Oh, no. Ah, yeah. Tocó Silf, volveré algún día. ¿Pero qué es Silf? No, claro que sé que es español, Wingstate. el problema no es el español, el problema son las siglas. No sé qué significa Silf. Ah, there you go. Habla con Silvana. Okay, what was I gonna do? I just lost track of time. Nails. We're gonna do nails. Okay, so here's a little trick for nails. I'm just gonna do this once. Claro que hablo bien el español. Soy de México. Tengo 28 años viviendo aquí en México. Viví 3 años en el extranjero. Hablo muy bien ambos. Yo hablo español todo el tiempo. Soy de Saltillo, del norte. Cualquier cosa que ocupen, manden un mensaje. Si me quieren hablar en español, hablen en español. No hay ningún problema. Pero en los streams, siempre hablo en inglés. I was just mentioning that I of course speak Spanish because I'm Mexican. I live in Mexico. So yeah. But I lived 3 years in LA, and I think that helped me quite a bit with my English. So I'm not saying it sounds perfectly natural. I of course have a little bit of an accent, but yeah, incredible. Blender modeling tips tutorial. I'm not that like I know how to use Blender, Mohammed. I've used it before. I have a course about it, but I do more modeling in Zbrush and in Maya. Saludos desde España, Yavan. Yes, it is possible to find freelance work, but my best advice, Javan, is try. I've shared this site with you guys before. Work with indies. It's a great site, and there's a lot of opportunities here. They are constantly updating this, and if you look here, art and animation, you're gonna find stuff like this one. Look at this, Studio Dry Dock, entry level 3D artist. I'm not sure exactly where that time is, but you might find something. I showed this trick to another of my mentees a couple of weeks ago, and it's a little bit of a weird tip, but I recommend using it. It's a good way to find more leads. Of course, just don't be creepy about it. Don't make people feel uncomfortable. But if you go to LinkedIn, and you follow an artist that you really like, maybe someone that you know, or someone that you know from the industry, like a not super famous name, but just like relatively known, go to their profiles, and usually you're gonna find all of the studios that they've worked in, and you can click on the studios and just know, or like investigate where those studios are located, and you might be able to find a couple of other opportunities. Because one thing that I've seen people ignore quite a bit is the fact that there's so many studios out there that might not be AAA studios, or that not super famous like studios. And they might be recruiting. They might be looking for people to help them out in their projects. So if you look for those studios and you understand what they're doing, that's a good way to find like opportunities. Let's go to this one. I just want to fill color with this one, the gold color, so we get an idea of how this is looking. Where is it? Body paint, gold color. Let's go, of course, to the arms. It's really like a little bit of a pinkish hue. There we go. That's a shame that we lost the details that we already had on this. So let's just play a little bit there with the hammered effect that we had. Ciao, Javan! I'm going to Rome to enjoy your country. Oh, no, you're talking to Retopology. There you go. Sometimes I just wish I paid more attention in Spanish class. Got Spanish roots, but don't speak Spanish. I mean, I'm not sure if it's Spanish is going to be... Oh, Wolf Girl! Thanks for the gift, Wolf Girl. Oh my god, look at that. We got a train here, a hype train. I never know how this thing works exactly, but I just know that the more like bits and stuff that we get, the more that thing gets up and running. Thank you for the gift, my friend. There you go, Javan. You just got the sub as well. Awesome, awesome. Thank you very much. Thank you, thank you. Quick save, yes, yes. Oh my god, not quick save, full save here. So a quick full save. What was I saying? Oh yeah, the Spanish is not, I would say, it's not like one of the main languages in the world. It's one of the top 10, I think. So it's definitely useful. But English, of course, is like super important. What other one? Chinese. A lot of people are speaking Chinese. I'm not sure if I want to learn Chinese at any point, but I know that that's another one. Okay, nails. Let's finish with nails. How to do quick nails, because we're reaching the end of the stream here. So I'm going to go here to my initialize options, and I'm going to go to initialize, and I'm going to create a Q cube, or Q cube. This one right here, right there. And once we have this, I'm going to make this a polymesh 3D. There we go. So this is a polymesh 3D. I'm going to make it a little flatter, like that. And then I'm going to go to CModeler. And I'm going to QMesh polygroup all. Push this out. And then mask that one and that one. Invert the mask and push it down. To create like this sort of like a roundish shape. Make it, of course, a little bit bigger. And that's it. I'm just going to Dynamesh. Dynamesh this thing. And then with Trim Dynamic... I'm going to soften the border here. Oh, make sure that symmetry is enabled. Soften this part right here. And then round this thing off. There we go. Move brush. Give us a little bit more roundness. And that's it. That's our nail right there. If you want to super clean it, we can now see remesh. So remesh, or where is it? No, over here, geometry, see remesh, and we can see remesh this. Half, see remesh, see remesh, see remesh, see remesh. Just keep halving until we get something that looks a lot cleaner, like that. And there we go. For this one, I like to just make an insert multi-mesh brush. So I'm just going to say B, create insert mesh, new. Now we have a brush that just adds nails. And we need a placeholder sphere here. Just wait. Okay, I know. So I'm going to append a sphere. I know. Substance Painter tutorial for beginners. Mohammed, I got you, man. It's already there. It's already on my site. It's called Substance Painter from Beginner to Master. In case you want to check it out, we have a course specifically about that thing that you're asking for. Let's make this really, really small. There we go. And now let's go to the nail right there. There we go. Make sure to line it up with the finger as nice as possible. One. Oh. Two. See how easy it is to add nails? Three. And with this sort of like procedural brush, it's very easy to add as many as we need. And this is, someone was asking about this, like this is what happens when you start creating like a library of things. You're gonna be able to reuse them as many times as you need. So the next time I need to do a character, if I save this brush, I'm not gonna have to do it again. Oh, we got a chest. What is this? Oh, we got a new emote, it seems. I'm starting to get the idea behind this train. Do you think it's possible to work in big game studios like Remedy for someone who's quite skilled but didn't work with a company before? Yes, but your portfolio needs to show it. And if you have work experience of any kind, that's really good. We've talked about this before. One of the things that big studios look for is the fact that you have worked under leadership, that you know how to follow orders, how to receive feedback, how to apply that feedback, right? Like how to work under deadlines, like stuff like that. That's one of the things that studios are looking for, because a lot of people, especially when they're working as freelancers, they don't have that experience, and when you give them feedback, they respond very, very negatively towards that. So it's very annoying to have to work with people who are not ready or not prepared to work in a teamwork environment. That's those are like the soft skills, and this is a discussion we have here on the channel quite frequently. That's the fact that schools will teach you a lot of those soft skills. So it's one of the things that you do get by going to a school, the fact that you know how to deal with those kind of like situations. Let's go there. Let's do a poly paint fill color. And now we go back to the hand, and we add a little bit of a bump here on the nail to really make it feel like the nail is coming from underneath the skin. It's like a blend. We can go into the nail as well and fix a couple of things too. No, I do not speak Arabic. I speak Spanish. I speak English. I understand a little bit of Italian. I understand a little bit of German. That's about it. I want to learn Japanese. I think Japanese is going to be my next language. Habibi. That's friend, right? I think Habibi is friend. Hope we can get course in Arabic. No, I don't think we're gonna, unless like AI gets like really, really good and it can translate my voice and my intention perfectly. That might be the next step for the courses, to have multiple languages like that. But I haven't seen any tool that can really capture my essence, so to speak. There we go. So that's it, guys. I think we're gonna stop it right here. Today was a good day. We did a lot of stuff here. Right, look at that. It's a shame that we lost the progress that we had on the belts right there, but we managed to do the full glove, the hands, the armor right there. And as you saw, it's not a fast process, guys. Like, this is why character creation and anything like 3D related is definitely tricky, right? Like, it took us 3 hours pretty much to get to this point, but now it's ready. Like, now I think we're in a good like a position. Yeah, let's definitely save. We're in a good position with this one, and now it's just a matter of keep going, keep polishing, adding a little bit stuff. Don't you think the nails are a little bit not feminine? Well, she's a warrior, Morka. She's like the stereotypical like princess stuff. It's not really Jane. Jane is like really, really strong. Reminds me a little bit more like Katniss Everdeen. So yeah, that's the kind of stuff that we're going for. Will you ever post the anatomy series on YouTube? No. We post like the courses are the courses on the premium on the site, right, Virtus? And we post a lot of stuff here on the live streams and on the shorts and all that information. But if you want to get like the core information, like the really, really solid condensed information, you can find that on the premium course. And that's one way you can support this project, so that it, of course, keeps going. So yeah, that's it, guys. Thank you very much. It was great. David, thank you for being here as well. Everyone, thanks for the support. You guys know that it's thanks to you that we can continue to do this every single week. We'll be back with more shorts, more videos, more content. Make sure to join the Discord. We have a lot of stuff in there. And next week, we're going to be going into portfolio review. So stay tuned, because the portfolio review submission page is going to be opening very, very soon. And as soon as it opens, the first 30 portfolios, that's what gets into the review. Okay? So yeah, thank you very much, my friends. Thank you for everything. Have a great weekend, and I'll see you back on the next one. Bye-bye.